That was good
Good
days.
evening, my name is
No
Nancy,
worries.
I'm the chair of the Committee on Finance. I'm calling to order a regular meeting on Tuesday, May 13th, 2025, 5 p.m. at the people.
Vice Chairman Taylor,
Here.
Councilor Enderwood,
Present.
Councilwoman Graves,
Here.
Councilor Sanchez,
Present.
Five personnel absent, you have a quorum.
Thank you very much. I'd also like to recognize tonight that we're joined by Pro Tem Picardo. We have Councilor Dorcas joining us this evening. We may be joined by others as the night goes on. But I also wanted to thank Ken Chevalier from the City Solicitor's Office for attending this evening, and of course our wonderful clerks. Thank you so much for all you do. With that, I am going to ask for a motion to waive the reading of items number 1 through 6. Sorry.
No,
I'm
1 through
sorry.
5.
1 through 5. Yes, I'm so sorry. The motion was made by Councilor Graves and seconded by Councilor Taylor. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? With that, we are going to call up our wonderful DPW department. And our team and our finance team, of course.
Please raise the right hand. Please swear on the penalties for the testimony about the did the truth of the truth from the truth. I take my oath to state your names and your titles for the record. Crystal Lindbergh, Deputy County Inspector and Budget Officer.
Patricia Point Director DPW.
Sarah Sylvia Bennett.
Lawrence Mancini, Chief Financial Officer, City of Providence.
Thank you so much, everyone, for coming, and thank you, special thank you to Director Point, who brought her team with her. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, with that, we will kick it off.
Thank you. Madam Chair, would you like me to stop and pause for questions between slides? Vice Chair had me do a little bit of presentation last time. I would recommend at the very least we stop between divisions if they are somewhat different in function.
Yes, that would be fine. And before we start, I think we will mark the whole packet. And
We're on 12, exhibit 12.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Antoine, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? I'd like to recognize Councilor Peterson, the 20 room here.
I'm noted.
Yes. And yes, I think it would be a good idea certainly to pause between, and of course, sometimes questions pop out.
Of course, yes, I'm prepared to work at your discretion. I just wasn't sure if there was a change. I encourage you all to turn your budget books to page 237. We will be discussing the engineering and sanitation division first.
Okay.
On slide 3. Total proposed expenditures in this division are $1,464,968. This represents a $2,253 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget, or approximately 0.15%. Total salaries in this division are $897,029. In fiscal 26, we are adjusting their salary line for cost of living increases for a total of $18,257 and staff increases for $11,514 for total proposed salaries of $926,000. When it comes to fixed and discretionary costs, this department does have a smaller service and supply line item. Their first fixed costs are private contractors. These are funds for emergency design and engineering services for projects that are not funded by the capital improvement plan. There is their supplies, a $2,000 allocation for miscellaneous expenses. This is engineering, safeties, registrations, and survey equipment. And the reason a portion of this $46,000 was reclassified to private contractors, so that's part of what the decrease from the 25 budget is for. They also have a small allowance of $1,000 for small tools and shop supplies. Their maintenance and service budget of $5,000 is for engineering related tools and equipment. Their copier and lease maintenance runs about $8,000 a year, and we have $10,000 budget for hurricane barrier maintenance. And that will wrap up, engineering. Are there any questions on this division?
Yes.
Can I say quickly?
Yes, Councilor Ingersoll.
Thank you, Drew, and thank you so much, Deputy Director, Lindberg. Can you talk a little bit about how the hurricane barrier maintenance went down so much?
Yes, so we do have funding in the capital improvement plan for hurricane barrier maintenance, and so what we were finding is that that allocation was not being spent, and we did have other dollars to provide that maintenance, and so we reduced the budget, but kept a placeholder in case there was any sort of one-off cycle.
Okay, but it's in the capital improvement.
It is,
Yes, okay, thank you.
I also have just a general question, revenue. Do we have revenue in this department?
There are revenues in this department, and, you know, one of the things we've been discussing is why they're actually not in this division specifically, because the engineering department does generate quite a few. As we get into the highway divisions and traffic engineering divisions, that's where that revenue has historically been budgeted and booked. Even though they generate engineering.
At all?
Yeah,
Would this be one-time, state grants that we had in 2024 on revenue? I hope I'm looking at the right.
oh, yeah, I see this in the budget book.
Yeah.
I'd have to dig into that. I know we were getting some DEM reimbursements for things, so I would have to run the GL and see what that was, but it was certainly a one-time revenue.
And may I just ask one more question on, since it was the reason the grants made me think of this, is there someone in DPW, the program that is concentrates on grants? Grant writing, or is there a, okay, I mean, I didn't see that, I mean.
Well, I mean, we do
State or
have staff
federal
that you can get notified about a lot of grant opportunities. We do have staff that will work either in the department or with other departments to help pursue. We work a lot with sustainability on those kinds of things, planning, pursues a lot of grants that we end up becoming involved in, and then someone at the city level, Alice, who kind of spearheads all of that, but we don't have any dedicated grants.
Okay, so you're usually on the implementation or, okay, great, thank you. So is this the right to govern? I don't believe it is. Talk about, I will give you, I'm saving that for, I'm all set. And then personnel, do we have an org for it?
We do, there's an org chart included in your packet, I should have been, the back staples. There's also a document that was provided at the request of this committee, which addresses the school traffic and safety fund, that's the speed camera revenue, so there's a full analysis of that.
Oh, great, thank
How
you.
much so it should have been behind your desk and then after, so it shows.
Trying to catch up, so of course, it's a separate department for this. Energy, engineering and sanitation.
Oh, yeah, so that's, you know, it's interesting, again, I think this is maybe one of those things that we need to look at when we're converting into a new ERP system. This department has always been referred to as engineering and sanitation. I'm not quite sure why we just refer to it as engineering, but the technical title in the ordinances and budget book is engineering.
Okay, so just so I have the right form for public works engineering.
Correct.
Department,
Yes.
which of course is very near and dear to my heart because it's a big line of credit. My question is always, does he have enough support to do the volume of what he's doing?
We're grateful, certainly grateful for the allocations that we've been in the last, for some additional staff, project manager, as well as another assistant chief engineer rather. You know, I think it's a fair question, but I mean, we would never say no to additional resources, and they do awful lot of valuable work. But we're in the process of filling those last two, actually those two vacancies and another vacancy from an engineer who left us to go to another city department. Improvement is difficult. You know, we're competing with the private market, which can be challenging. But we're still plugging away and trying to pass the one next, so we can bring some good people in and continue that good work.
Now, how long have those vacancies been?
So they were, so the assistant chief engineer position and the project manager position were new positions, and those have been since the last budget. And as I said, it's been a challenge to recruit to those positions. We have some good prospects right now, and kind of hopeful, keeping our fingers crossed that we can fill those soon. The civil engineer vacancy, we have any- do you remember?
Yeah, July 1st.
Okay, and then, the GIS, coordinator had been vacant until, I wanna say, Monday, yesterday.
Oh,
or
wow.
last week. And so, you know, we've been busy trying to fill their positions.
If we're not able to attract, we created the positions, we know we need them, because of all the projects that are going on in the city. Why is it that we're not looking more for those positions? Either new or personal or whoever can answer that, I'm just wondering.
You know, I think that this year was a challenging budget year, and so while those things were contemplated at this point in time, there was a decision to not try to pursue salary increases where possible. But it is a valid question and something that has come up perpetually.
Okay, no solution. I guess that.
I believe, did you say you have a candidate or?
We do, we have, you have a candidate for at least one of the two, new vacancies, correct?
Yeah, we reached out to that candidate, but they've been unresponsive since submitting that application. We'll continue to plug away and advertise that position.
We do have, you know, this is a tough budget year, we recognize that. We do have, plans that we would like to implement going forward. Starting next year, hopefully. Part of it frankly is gonna be when we move to our new building. It's a different kind of space, in terms of just physical atmosphere, which we feel is gonna elevate the professionalism of everyone, but that division included makes us a little more competitive with some of the private sector atmospheric things. I mean, if you spent any time at 700 hours, you know that. We actually think that's gonna happen. And so we do have some plans, we have had discussions, but we recognize that this was not the budget year to ask for this kind of things.
Yes, Counselor Engelbaum.
Thank you, and thank you, Craig, you do amazing work. If the salary, totally, it's a terrible budget year. If the salary is what it is, are there other non-monetary benefits that we can provide to folks, like flexibility of like work hours, or like, what are we exploring to like attract folks that's competitive with like I work in the nonprofit sector, we're never gonna pay as much as the private sector, but then there's like work from home or flexible schedules or good other things. Positive work environment, you know, all the things, like what are we doing in that space?
I mean, it's again, it's a challenge,
Yeah.
but what I do hear, and Craig and I talk about this, with some frequency, is that, you know, a younger engineer just out of school or just
Yeah.
entering the market, a lot of the private firms do offer things like that, like work from home or remote work a couple of days a week, and we try to accommodate and be competitive in that regard to the extent that we can.
Yeah.
Recognizing what the limitations might be, and what the directives have been. But those are definitely things that we explore, and I advocate, you know, he lets me know what we need to try to push, and that's what I try to do.
Okay. Thank you, Director.
Any other questions? Yes, Counselor Peterson, how are you?
I actually have a question, and I believe this is with engineering. If it's not, you can let me know. But in the first budget that we had in the first term that we were going over, we had discussed having a position available to do one, this might be more for environmental, but specifically with engineering, being able to hire so that projects can be done quicker. And I just kind of wanted to follow up because we are in year 3, and based on what I'm looking at, it's clear as data, you're understaffed, but our projects seem to still linger and kind of wait, and our neighbors kind of continuously ask what, you know, what's happening, what's the status, where's it going? when am I gonna get these things done? So I was wondering if you'd be able to kind of break down a little, perhaps the process and also whatever happens to that particular position, or if. you-
Sure, I mean, I can start, but then I'd like to give Craig an opportunity to expand on it.
I appreciate it.
Certainly the project manager was one of those positions that was provided to us last year for this purpose. And we are struggling to fill it. That's, we're hopeful that we're gonna be ultimately successful in filling that. I think, there's also a lot of moving parts to any project. You gotta look at the time of year, the season that you're in, the market, what contractors are available and willing to do the kind of project that you wanna do. And so it's sometimes what looks simple on the surface, certainly to the constituent who's interested in having that work done. Might have things underneath it that perhaps they're just not familiar with or not aware of, that can make orchestrating all the timelines a little more challenging than they might have thought at first. It doesn't mean there aren't people working on it and trying to move it forward. It's just, we are limited by a lot of other factors. I don't know what you want to add.
Yeah, you know, I think it depends on projects, sidewalk projects have always been problematic in implementing on a quick schedule.
Madam Chair, I
Um,
need to swear him in.
I'm so sorry. Mr. Hoffman, may we swear you in?
Please raise your hand. Do you swear under penalty of perjury that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but
I do,
the truth?
Craig Hoffman and city engineer. So yes, I think some projects are a bit more complicated than others. Council sidewalk projects are typically a thorn in our side, just trying to get those locations together. Estimating that between the matters one package. It's really most efficient for us and most efficient as well. There's a lot of work that goes into that also, right? We don't want to do pour a new sidewalk when there's lead service water pipes that have to be replaced, right? So that's could be a couple month process just to coordinate with gas and water, our two most common utilities. And if there is work, then that could push the sidewalk work out 3 to 6 months, depending on their schedule as well. And so there's a large planning design component to this, and construction is actually the speediest of them all. Really good design and coordination.
Yes, thank you. Just to push back a little further, I think one of the things that is very difficult for us to explain as counselors is that those timing issues do exist, and there's a lack of being able to hire and have all of those kind of components kind of line up in a row. But the problems just continue kind of getting bigger, the sidewalks. Now, I'll give you the perfect example. In Ward 14, my first year, I presented 10 projects that I wanted to be able to get done through ARPA funds that we had from the original year. Those still haven't been done, but I have now an additional list of about 30 more sidewalks that just over time have continued to deteriorate. And so for me specifically, it makes it really difficult to be able to explain to my neighbor that's saying, hey, I know that it's still kind of on the waiting list, but like, can you tell me where we are with this? Because these aren't funds, these were funds that we administered as city councilors through that separate opportunity. And we don't have an opportunity to say, we just have to keep waiting. We do have to do quite a bit of saying, hey, let me follow up with you, and it's still not, we're not able to get a proper timeline of things that makes people very angry. So I just want to and see if there's a way that we can finally, maybe even either just find some information or obtain a better timeline to be able to offer our constituents so that we're able to kind of meet them where they're at.
Sure, we do require schedules from our contractors, and we do share that with the council office. If you're not getting that, then I'll be sure to address it. Right now, we've got $8 million worth of sidewalk contracts on the streets today. That's an enormous amount for any one year. And to address the ARPA specifically, we're about 1/3 of the way through that. I know that was one of the ones that got delayed and delayed and delayed.
Yeah.
Just wait to see how folks want to spend their ARPA allocations, right? That's the first battle.
Right.
Second is deciding on those address locations. But that is in construction, and that is the NIF 24 projects, and we're waiting for the final locations for the NIF 25 allocation. So that continues to linger design. We're done with the addresses that we've been provided, but we're waiting to finalize that list, put that out to the bidding community.
Yeah. So a fair estimate on projects like these, as a counselor who utilize separate project funds to be able to do this, could we say safely that it would take about 3 years for these projects to kind of see themselves? presented?
So we have had some success in the past, asking for addresses by the end of September. That allows us to do all of our advanced work through the fall, bid it over the winter and have construction start in the spring. But we're about 6 months behind schedule. Right, so if we can do a better effort at getting that together right after that, this budget is passed in the new fiscal year, we should be looking at spring construction for the year.
Thank you.
Yes, Counselor Graves, and then
Yes.
Counselor Taylor.
Go ahead, what you asked and what you just said, what we gave you the list, whole list, the very first year. And you just started on some of those projects, I mean, you've been in the community, but it's on DPW's list, not our list. So the people that came to us are the ones that are complaining. Well, you said that I was on the list. These people have been sitting on the list, some of them, one of them I know has been sitting on the list since 2009. It's kind of hard for me to say that, yeah, and then last year, it didn't get done the first year, we knew that. Didn't get done last year. And some of them are just getting done. So I don't think it's the next spring. I don't think we should be telling people that because I don't see that happening. Number one. Number two. That lead base, they're changing the thing for the lead pipes and stuff. Are you getting a list of the addresses that they're doing so that we'll know or whatever that, okay, you're not gonna do this because if we could have a list saying, well, the only reason that's not getting done is because they're waiting for work to be done from someone else. I mean, that's passing buck a little bit, but that's okay, at least we can tell them something.
Yeah, we can work together to accelerate those lead service replacements. Yeah, they need to go through a procurement process and assign those out.
Mhm.
But we can phase our construction to say, hey, starting this forward because there are no lead services, right? Those have all been updated in the past year. Lead just wasn't present at the time of building. So we can sequence internally, right? Oftentimes we defer to the contractor, say, hey, what's best for you? It's an enabling system for us, is they do what's best for you and your.
We really don't like the idea of we're gonna avoid this board or this block. While we wait, because these are the same ones, like I said, have been languishing on these lists for years. Maybe you can do, because I did clusters, I made sure that there were clusters, some might not be as bad as the others, and there's some over on the other side, it is bad, but it's not in a cluster, it's, So I made sure we did those things, so we could say, well, you're not just going out there doing one, and you skip over to the other side, and you skip over that. So if we now tell them, oh, well, they're not gonna do that ward at all, because this is the ward that there's gonna be some left, work being done on. That's not gonna fly.
Yeah, it's not that it won't be done, it just may be delayed or pushed back in the schedule. Right, and this is what we're communicating with the county office.
Okay.
Yes, Counselor Sanchez. Oh, I'm sorry.
So just to answer your question, this is my second term as councilman. And I'm in my 7th year, and I still have a list of sidewalks. When I first started, there was probably over 100. I've gone out and looked at it myself and kind of like try to prioritize them. Because they are bad, you can actually, if it's a tripping hazard, you can let them know and put some asphalt on it. So make it better that way. But I guess the biggest question, and I don't know if we have it full yet, but how many cement finishes do we have now? Total should be 4 on highway and 2. Okay, so there should 4 on highway and 2 in sewer, coming sewer. Okay, so every year we come, we're never full. I don't know why that is, that because we're not paying enough.
I can address some of that. Again, grateful for the allocation of an additional crew to do what I'm gonna call smaller sidewalk jobs. The jobs that the vendors and contractors that Craig's division works with generally aren't interested in taking on anything less than a, full corridor or a full street. So it's kind of like one-off, two-off, smaller sidewalk jobs. We wanted to be able to do in-house. And so, we were grateful for the allocation of an additional crew. Again, we struggled to hire to those positions. To some extent, the cement finishing, I don't know if we weren't paying what the market pays. I wouldn't be surprised if we weren't paying what the market can pay at times. But to some extent, it was almost a lost art. It was hard to find people that knew how to do that work. So we had to pivot and try to train the people we had to do that work, and that took a little bit of time. But I can say that now, the highway division, in addition to doing those make safe things with asphalt that I know most people don't like, they have been doing smaller sidewalk jobs, and that's definitely taken a little bit of the weight off engineering and hopefully gotten a little bit, people have noticed that there are some smaller sidewalk jobs that are being done, and they're being done in-house. But we do still have a couple of vacancies that we would like to be able to fill.
I guess my question is, in highway, when's the last time we've had 4 cement finishes?
Before my time.
So we've always had 2. And then in sewer, when do we have a whole boat last year?
Yes, I do.
I think if we,
I'm sorry.
right, that's right.
Madam Chair, may I make a recommendation? It could be some kind of square. the
Yes,
whole
why don't
team.
we swear everybody? I guess. Yes, please. As well, everybody stand up this year with DPW. Okay, we're gonna swear everyone in.
Raise your right hands. You swear on the testimony currently that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, nothing but the truth. So we can stand on that side, state your name and titles for the record.
Anthony Cipriano Jr., I am an environmental specialist with the Department of Public Works.
John, I was superintendent.
Associate Director of Environmental. Edwin Kasich, Police Management, Area Director of Public Service.
Nate Urso, managing engineer, traffic engineering in the public works department.
David Mambro, Superintendent of Traffic.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Okay, now you.
Okay, so just my thing is that we've been behind the 8 ball for 3 years with getting cement finishes. I mean, I don't know. You gotta be people out there looking for work, okay? I just can't see how comes we can't get. But when we do a sidewalk, I guess my question is, say, he wants a sidewalk done. And there's only 2 in highway. Do the 2 in sewer actually go to highway and help out with a sidewalk, or it's only highway and sewer just does sewer sidewalk, like when they dig up the sidewalk?
Well, we're moving 2 on the highway, but the sewer department also has to do cement work.
So when you do a sidewalk for, let's say she has a constituent that needs 4 or 5 squares out front. Do you do it with your 2 or do you grab the 2 there? Just your 2. And then when something with sewer, you do your own, is that correct?
Yes, my experience is not the way brick and install them, but get structures as opposed to the sidewalk. After we finish a project, the sidewalk, so we repair the whole basement, we would get it done on the highway to the restoration of the sidewalk.
Okay.
Normally on one site, we need to spend finishes on one site.
But I'm saying that are they both equal? No, would you say, I'm a councilman, he's a councilman, we're equal, or a councilman? The highway, the cement guy is the same as a sewer cement, like they can do both?
They do a lot of good work, we don't, when we do it, I'll show you him. Cement finish is cement finish, but the work the sewer department does, is a little different than what we do.
Okay.
Okay,
That's it for now.
any other questions? Yeah, yes, I'm sorry, Councilor Sanchez, I'm gonna go down the line.
Hey, Joel. Thank you, Director and DPW team for all your hard work. Just a question, and not to, keep beating the horn on the sidewalk. I know it's been frustration because, counselors and our constituents, that's like the number one thing they'll share with us for concerns, and the time is definitely a process. But my question is, I know there's a lot of like external factors when we do sidewalk work, like getting contractors. Have we done anything with like RFP process to promote it more to different contractors? I know I think Councilman Morgan has brought up before trying to get smaller companies out there to do this type of work, to incentivize them to bid on some of these smaller projects. So I'm just wondering if you could, talk about, that for a bit.
I think, I mean, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
So, the engineering department has an on-call contract for construction. It's geared towards sidewalks. It allows us to go out and estimate based on known prices. So again, we can turn your discretionary funds around much quicker. We avoid that 3-month public procurement process, but again, this contract is procured publicly. And under this contract, today, we have seven contracts. They're medium to large size firms. But it is solicited publicly, and, you know, we also provide a recommended bidder list to purchasing, and in the past couple of years, we've met with the small, the name's escaping me, but a small business contractor group to try and get them bidding on our projects in the future. We're gonna be re-advertising this over the winter, where we hope to get some of the smaller construction companies and grow that.
For the go to Councilor Vargas.
Thank you very much. Thank you for being here today, to everyone from DPW and the department. We might need to start working more for the city, trying to make a better welcoming. Can I get a list of those sidewalks you've been doing this last summer?
The
Or
ones that highway has
the
done?
highway has done, and at least the sewer department did, because if both departments can pour concrete, why director from sewer has to call highway department to finish a sidewalk where they're working when they are cement finisher?
Because I think, and feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, but, I think that the work they do is kind of different. So the highway is gonna go out and respond to a constituent concern of a sidewalk that needs repair or replacement. Whereas sewer is repairing something they did to get to the sewer. So they're kind of rebuilding, and they do more brick work than pouring concrete. And so once they've kind of made it safe after they've dug up a sidewalk to get to the sewer line, that's why they're calling highway to come in for the cements. Yes, they're both cement finishers, but they do different kinds of work.
So we should change the name on his department, not cement finisher, because they're not finishing a sidewalk.
I need the list of the jobs that highway has done since the summer.
One more question?
Yep.
Those two cement finishers the highway department has, who's the former, or like, and those two persons, who's going to be inspecting them that they will finish the job, or that's the reason that they cannot do any sidewalk because they don't have a third person who can watch them or how to do the job?
I'm not sure I understand.
What's the question?
Yeah, is there a foreman? Is that what you're?
Yeah, it's a former, like, you only have two persons, right? Who's hiring the other one? Do you have a foreman and a laborer, or how many laborers?
Foreman, two cement finishers, a laborer, and most likely a company operator. The foreman is there to give the order. From start to finish.
So basically, it's 4 people in the cement finisher area, division.
We're using 4, yes.
Any other questions? Or, yes,
Thank you.
Councilor Taylor?
I'm just, since we're staying on the cement thing. Thanks, Shelley. When was the last time that the 2 cement finishes were posted to try to hire somebody? And then also, have we reached out to, like, say, One Builders or one of them that have, or like for an apprenticeship, and look out to see?
We actually went to a school, in Trish.
Yeah,
We went to, PCTA to talk to them, about possibly recruiting some of their soon to be graduates who are now working in that field. We're getting updated.
okay, so
Okay, and then Councilor Graves.
My question is, when I asked, how come the list that we as council have put in are not getting done? Usually, well, DPW doing their list first, and then they're gonna do your list. Is this true, or is this just something that somebody just?
Yes, I think we're talking about two different lists. The engineering division, performs or oversees the contractor review. So if you have NIF or CDBG dollars, that's a list I'm talking.
Okay,
If it's being requested to be done with internal crews, that bypasses our division, or deal with those contracted, firms. I defer to my colleagues here.
Those generally come through 311, and they would go to highway, and they would see, is this the kind of job that they can handle? They would communicate with engineering if it's not, and figure out kind of whose list it belongs on.
okay, and my other thing is, it's strange that the list that you guys are doing is the whole street. If that comes from a complaint or something, then why is it the whole street getting done? Opposed to, okay, well, we're gonna take care of this, and then we're gonna go back to the list of people that's been sitting on it, because like I said, I have someone I know that's sitting on the list from 2009, but there was someone on the list from 1999. And as far as I know, they're still on it. If this is the case, can't we say, okay, we're gonna prioritize something? We gotta go out to these people that's been sitting here for decades. It just makes no sense. And people are still coming up to us every single year talking about, you said I was on the list. You said you put all the lists together. You said, and I'm like, yes, I did say that time. So I'm eating my words every meeting because it's like, this is ridiculous. And I'm not hounding you guys. I just want to know if there's a better way that we can do it so we can show that. And it's always the main street that seems to be getting done. And it's like, you can do Douglas, you can do Smith, you can do Trumpstone and do a whole bunch, but you can't do Camden, you can't do Vale, you can't do these little tiny ones that have, and they are the ones that are really in worse condition because they haven't been done in years. I think we need to start riding by and say, you know what? Let's do this group, but we're gonna do this one project so that we're always doing something so that it looks like we're not just doing the main road, which they think makes us look cute. It doesn't. It makes us look really bad. It looks like we're just worrying about the main corridors. And the other people, no, do what you do, do whatever. And it's just a really bad, ugly look. And I would
I can tell you that, I'm sorry.
No.
I can tell you that since we've had the crews able to do the smaller jobs through highway, we have, it's one crew. There's a lot to do. I know that's not a perfect answer, but it is what it is. But there have been much smaller areas, much smaller sections of sidewalk, not full streets, that the highway division has been able to do. So it's, I know it's not the perfect answer.
Okay, we do have to get going, so I'm gonna let, Peterson ask. Yes, thank you. I should also, this is more of a general question, but, Director, in a perfect world, start with that. In a perfect world, one of the things I think that we should be tasked with as counselors is to find ways to make things more efficient. I think it just we need to work smart, not hard, right? And you guys deal with so much of the parts of the quality of life issues, and all of your directors do a phenomenal job. They're extremely responsive to me, and I very much value their support in my award and all the things that they do. But in a perfect world, how many employees would make a good DPW run as efficiently as possible to address all of the things that we would need to get done in a timely manner? I know.
I don't have a number.
Okay.
More, always more. I'm never gonna sit here and say, no, because it's government. And I get it. I spent my whole career in government. You're never gonna be able to do everything you want all at once. So we do prioritize, and we do try to approach things with an equitable lens to make sure that we're being fair. And so, if we had more people, if we had more trucks, if we had more materials, could we do more? Sure. I don't know what that magic number is.
What I'm trying to determine is if having more employees is actually going to be able to be beneficial rather than changing a procurement process or creating kind of like prioritizing, adding, you know, shifting people from one department to another. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
Sure. No, I mean, I think it's both. I think there's always room for process improvement and there's always room for better communication. For example, you know, we're digging up, you know, if we don't want to be digging up a sidewalk to fix it, only to find out that the utility is coming in next week or the lead replacement, you know, so we work really hard, engineering especially, really hard to be better communicators and have them communicate better with us, so that we're not in that tail chasing exercise. But certainly, you know, more people I think is part of the equation, but part of the equation has to be process improvement. And doing more with less teaches you that very loudly. And I think we've been working in, at least since I've been there, I've seen that we've been working really hard to find ways to make it work better. And so I think it's doable.
I think Ms. McMahon has something to add.
Yeah, I apologize. I just want to add something. So I totally agree with that. I would get involved every day and we understand the frustration. So, I mean, if you just think of scope, we have almost 150 miles of sidewalk. We have over 400 miles of roadway. So that's about 1,000 miles that, you know, engineers are working and collaborating with the facility. So Fred Huffman, the chief engineer, does a wonderful job. His deputy, Brian Anderson, does a wonderful job. But we will get together after this meeting and we will, you know, brainstorm and we will get feedback and we'll see if we can make that happen. Okay?
Can we get super quick comment? Yes, of course, Counselor Vanderpump.
Just a super quick comment that you guys have been doing a really great job fixing a lot of the sidewalks, like not new sidewalks or whatever, but there's like the patching and so, well, maybe also the other things, but what I'm focusing on is like in Ward 3, there's a lot of sidewalk that's been broken from our wonderful tree cover that I'm so grateful we have, but it makes janky sidewalks and you guys have done a really great job fixing a lot of those spots in Ward 3 and people have been bringing it up. So I try and forward you those good vibes when they come up, but just to say people have noticed that you're out there and they appreciate it.
Oh, yes, Counselor Richardo.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And I do will reiterate the work that's been done by sewer and also environmental and the other departments responding to our, at least from my needs in the district, and they've been great. A question for the director, in essence, knowing that there's about, it was indicated about $8 million in ARPA money for sidewalks out there, correct? That's what it was just stated, and perhaps even more. Is there a plan in place that will help us monitor the successes and what is needed to address this and shortening the time frame of getting these things complete?
There is there's a plan for the ARPA money.
No, I understand for the ARPA money, but just in general, to address the issue of the sidewalks. Seeing that this is from the beginning, that this has been a challenge for your department, but also for us as city council. I mean, these are the calls that we get. And I keep saying, you know, we could do a lot of policy, a lot of ordinance, but at the end of the day, when people step out of their home, they see that sidewalk, they see that you know, tree that's overgrown, and all the department could do is come over and put asphalt on it, and still it's a problem because it's going through their pipes. But is there a plan from your department in essence to address this? And if not, can you commit to creating a plan so that way, you know, we can try to see the progress that we're making on this, and also addressing the needs that will help your department to get this accomplished. As the councilman indicated, that there's in different wards, there's hundreds of sidewalks that are needed to be replaced, and this could take 4 or 5 years to actually get accomplished. So what I'm looking for is, would you commit to like having a plan to report to us, or at least that way we can address more comprehensively this issue with the sidewalk.
So, and I will defer to Craig for the balance of your question, but what I will say is, so there's kind of two universes of sidewalk jobs. There's the one-offs, it's cracked in front of my house, the trees is a whole other thing. Because can the tree come down? Very often the answer is no. And so then we're having to kind of figure it out with what you call, the patch that goes over the roots to at least keep people from trimming. So there's kind of a reactionary sidewalk job where it's cracked, it's broken, it's lifted, let's go out there, let's make it safe, what can we do? And then there's the more proactive, which is the bigger jobs, the longer corridors, the more expansive work that gets done, keeping in mind the numbers that Morgan McManus just gave you about how many miles we're talking about. If we could ever get to a place where all we did was proactive sidewalk work, it would be a perfect world. I'm a realist, so I don't see that happening. But I will tell you that there is definitely a combination of us reacting to 311s for people complaining rightfully that they have an issue with their sidewalk in front of their house. And the more expansive, proactive, longer corridors or places that really need attention. That is a plan that I know Craig does share with council, and Craig, it is a fully developed plan. It's on GIS. You can see the roads that have been done, the roads that are going to be done, not the roads, the sidewalks that have been done, the sidewalks that are going to be done. And kind of, glean what the plan is, if you will, from all of that. Not sure what you want to add.
Yeah, that's exactly it, and it talks about our methodology for how we select, and there is a back and forth with the council to ensure that we're addressing your needs as well. We have focused on those main roads where we theorize that the most amount of people are walking, right? We don't want to be replacing sidewalks on a dead end where we're minimal people. Never provide the most benefit to the most amount of people. In some wards, we have considered the main drags. Ward 9 is one of those. Ward 9 is in great shape, redone by the state within the past decade. One of our first CIP investments in 2018 was along Broad Street. There should not be a trip hazard on Broad Street. So I think Second Street, I believe, is where we were in Ward 9 this year. We're getting into the neighborhood, we're focused on schools and parks. Again, we theorize most people are walking through that part of the neighborhood because of those amenities. In a perfect world, yeah, we're into the neighborhood because that is one of the back and forth dialogues we have with individual councilors. Why here? Why not there? There's not enough dollars to go around to do everything that's needed, but we are getting there, slowly chipping away. And really that 2017 bond was the first investment in sidewalks since the late 90s, early 2000s. That was a council directed bond where council shows what roads were paved, what sidewalks were done. I wasn't here at that time, I can't speak to their decisions, but we're trying to make it very clear what our goal is and to get everyone's buy-in and share. If anyone needs a sidewalk, like I'd be happy to. It shows all the work we've done since 2017, including the council picture as well.
I just,
We really have to move on.
Yes,
So I'm gonna allow one more really quick question. on
yes, isn't that more so of a question? And again, it's, we got this, piece of information in the shed with different, city council. I'm just, asking in essence from the department and the director, seeing that it's a big challenge for us that put this information together and put a plan, to address it. So that way, we have it in front of us and that we can also measure it too, because there's some frustration from all of us. I mean, that's what I'm looking for, whether if you're committed to doing something like that within your department. It seems like you have all these data and information, is just putting that plan for us together.
Councilor Tam.
That's real quick. I mean, the plan I would like to see is that you put it out to bid until someone bids it. I mean, you come in as a director and ask when the last time, or, we haven't filled 4. That thing should be out every week, every month until we get 4, because we're really blaming them, but it's not really their case. They don't have enough people. So if they got the other 2 people, you'd have 4, it'd be a full house. They could get more, but that thing should not be sitting on a back burner, especially if it's funded, which has been funded for the last 7 years that I know of. So, put it out there and get people to bid on it and see what happens. That's it. Thank you.
Okay, with that, I think we're going to proceed because we've only done one division. Okay, thank you.
The next division in the Department of Public Works is the Environmental Control Division. The numbers for this budget begin on page 239. This is the revenue generating department. There are fees for the sale of replacement trash and recycling parts that have been budgeted in this department. They are $58,000 this year, which is a $5,000 increase over the fiscal 2025. Total expenditures in this division are $18,098,959. This represents a $2,086,370 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget. 50%. Fiscal 2025 salaries were $713,000. In fiscal 2026, we will be adjusting those salary lines for cost of living increases at $13,397. Step increases for $1,420, for a total proposed fiscal 2026 salaries of $728,253. This department does have 4 fixed and discretionary costs. Their first discretionary cost is budgeted in the other services line item, and this is $50,000 for court-related court codes, and I think you're all familiar with what those are, but if there's questions, I would welcome those. There's $15,000 budgeted for pest control. $100,000, when I put that in the wrong bucket, that should be in discretionary, my apologies. That is for cleanup in the commercial corridor. And that was a pilot program that began in the fiscal year 2025 budget. It has been reduced by $100,000. So in fiscal 25, there was $200,000 budgeted. We are budgeting $100,000 in fiscal 2026. Recycling pickup has been budgeted at $5,161,589, and that is in accordance with the contractors being reviewed tonight. There is $50,000 budgeted for waste recycling education, and that is level funded from fiscal year 2025. Private contractors is budgeted at $158,000, and this is funding for replacement parts as well as collection agency. Garbage pickup is budgeted at $5,871,075, which is an increase based on the most recent contract. And refuse processing is budgeted at $5,250,000. This is the fees that Rhode Island Resource Recovery charges for tipping fees. And their only supply line item is $6,000 for small tool and shop supplies, and this is for various tools and equipment required by the department. And that wraps up the engineering. I'm sorry, environmental. Thank you all.
We'd like to start the questions. Okay, Councilor Santa.
Thank you, Chairwoman. My first question is, regarding the announcement of replacing trash barrels, for the whole city. Is that reflected in this budget somewhere?
It is, it's in the debt service budget. So the expectation is that a portion of those will be paid for with a grant, the balance of it will be financed. So if you look at the debt in the budget book, there's a debt schedule that begins on page 152. You can see at the bottom, there's a placeholder for fiscal year 2026 bond issuances of $2 million. And part of that is the budget.
So can we break down the numbers of what is planned to get grant funded, and then what are we financing exactly?
Yes. Yes, so the grant, I believe, you know, what, Councilman, I do have that, I just didn't bring it with me, so I'm gonna have to get that full reconciliation of the total cost and then the breakdown by funding sources. I believe that the finance portion of the parks was, let me get the breakdown, which I have available, so I can get you the most accurate information. I do know that the actual purchase of those parts have gone out to RFP, and I don't believe we've received responses yet, so the total price of all of the replacement is still an unknown at this point in time. But I can give you the budget numbers for what we are budgeting.
Thank you. Just I don't wanna like be too much off topic, but for the rollout of that, you have plans on what wards are getting hit first, or is that too early? Or what?
It's too early, the RFP, you know, talks about asking the bidder to tell us how we roll it out, but
Correct.
yeah, that's the level of detail that we're just not there.
Thank you.
Is that it for you?
Oh, yeah, thank you.
Okay, Councilor Graves.
My question is, the garbage pickup and recycling and all that, what company are we dealing with, the same company?
For the contract that's before you,
Okay.
yes, waste management.
We just
We
talk
want
about
to
exactly,
we want to-
exactly
Okay.
what lines we're talking
Yeah.
about, so that we specifically on page 10. I'm sorry, so the recycling, can you just tell us exactly which ones are the waste management?
Yes, so it's recycling pickup, I think it's about. It's this was what happened was there's a formula in here and I didn't catch it when I was updating my sheet, so that change is not accurate.
Yeah.
My apologies for that, I can do some mental math if we need to. But the lines that are included in this contract are recycling pickup 52350, that budget is $5,161,589, and garbage pickup 53402, and that's $5,871,075.
Okay, so those are the two waste management contracts, and are the changes, I'm sorry, accurate?
No, those changes are not accurate, so the fiscal 2025 budget.
Is that what the waste management contract, is that the
That
right
is the
number?
new waste management.
That's the right
contract.
number?
That is the correct number for the new contract.
It's not.
It's not changed on here though, okay.
Yeah,
It's right in the budget book.
Yeah.
It is right in the budget book, but still, if you could just tell us.
239.
Yeah.
Recycling went up. Wow.
So the garbage pickup is an increase of $142,490. And recycling pickup is. Is $1,347,789.
Okay,
Okay, that's correct then.
that's correct.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. Both correct.
No, but it's
Okay,
not, I
that
think you're
was-
looking at refuse processing.
Yeah, it's just the Rhode Island resource recovery fees that are incorrect.
Okay.
I just missed the spreadsheet. My
Okay, and
apologies.
then, just so we can, so waste recycling application, that's done in-house by the city.
Correct.
Okay, and then the private contractors are,
This is replacement carts and the collection
Okay.
agency, so that's a payment to the company that provides those carts.
okay, and then resource recovery,
That's
the
the,
refuse processing, that goes directly to the resource recovery,
that is correct.
and that. Sorry, is it that big of a thing?
No, it's not that big of a change, so that
Okay.
is,
Okay, Counselor Graves, does that help or?
that is a $740,000 increase in Rhode Island resource recovery. And that is based on the trending actuals, which have run over budget the past few years.
I don't know if this is the time or place to be bringing this up. But I just want to know, why are we going back to the same person?
We can, why don't we save that question for the contract?
Okay.
Because I have a bunch of questions.
Yeah,
Okay,
there's
back
gonna
to
be a ton
talking
of
about
questions, so let's just assume
Okay.
for the purposes of this discussion. That the contract is going to be approved, although everyone has questions about the contract, but just for this purpose, we'll just assume that. Okay. All right. Counselor Anderson.
Thank you. I just have a few questions. One is, for the garbage receptacles, I know this is just a small increase, but if there's the plan to replace all of the garbage and recycling receptacles, why do we think we're gonna get more revenue from replacing the receptacles? It's going up by like $5,000.
There's a thought, which I think is valid, that if the two carts are the same size as each other, people would be less likely to add their garbage into their recycling cart.
Oh, no, I totally get that, but we have a line item for garbage receptacles that's going, the revenue is going up for replacement, but we're gonna replace them all with this grant / other thing, so why do we think people are gonna pay us to replace Do you get what I'm saying?
I do understand what you're saying. You know, the theory is that there will inevitably be parts that are replaced throughout this year. We built the budget based on prior year actuals, so in fiscal year 2023, we collected almost $56,000 in parts, and so that's how we built the budget going forward. There is a risk that we may not collect all of that, but I know that there are also just like, as the course of the month goes on, there will inevitably be people that maybe don't want to wait for the new part to come in and want to just place it early or whatever, depending on how we phase that out. I don't think it's gonna be possible to deliver all of the parts immediately on the first month of the year.
Yeah.
And so the implementation of that phase out will take time, and while that's happening, there will inevitably be someone who needs to replace the part.
Okay. And then I think I had two other questions.
Yes, please.
In private contractors, can you talk a little bit about that line? It's gone down, but I'm just wondering like what that is. It's 53401.
Yep. So that is who we pay. I don't know why we put it in private contractors, because we pay for the actual parts, but that is the actual parts we're buying to replace the salespeople who are replacing them. So there's a standard allocation for that every year, replacement parts. It's also fees for the collection agency for any sort of environmental tickets that we're attempting to collect.
Oh, okay.
Mhm.
And then I think I did another.
Can I just add to that? So we are, where's our revenue from the environmental fees?
The revenue for the environmental fees is in the non-departmental budget under fines and forfeitures. But we do not budget it separately from the rest of the fines and forfeitures. So if you look at, where is the departmental, it's tagged in here. Page 144, fines and forfeitures. In fiscal year 2025, so far we've collected $109,349. It's account code 44105. We budget all fines and forfeitures in the fines and forfeitures line item, and then as the year revenues are collected, they are reported in accordance with what they are collected for.
Oh, okay, so to make sure I'm looking at the right spot, 44015.
Yes, 44015.
Okay, and
there's nothing.
There's nothing under 25, 26, 27. How does that work?
So if you see the budget of 4250 in fiscal year 2025 and account 44020,
Oh, I see.
that represents the budget in all of the line items that make up that fines and forfeitures total.
Okay.
So the total revenue from all fines and forfeitures budgeted in fiscal year 2026 is the 4.7 million. And as those actions come in, they will be booked to either booting, environmental, interstate delinquencies, moving violations, or parking based on the ticket type.
Okay. Is there any, okay, yes, I'm sorry. I'm gonna
Oh,
come
keep
back
going.
here, but I'm just, is there a question on that?
Oh, I have a question. I just want, go ahead.
Oh,
So Counselor Ingeborg, I'm sorry, do you want to go ahead with your question?
oh yeah, I just had two more questions. One is not to like keep harping on these track barrels, sorry. Will that contract come before us? The one that's out to RFP right now? We'll see that before it, okay. And then, one minor thing, what are port tows?
Port tows, those are for abandoned vehicles or, sometimes, trailers that have lots and lots of things in them that are left on city property that need to be towed and taken care of.
Okay.
Did we ask that last year?
And just to come right in, I'm gonna come right in with Portos. How
Nice.
much do we charge? How much do we get for this? What's the cost of a Porto?
You have to one port tow.
Yeah.
I think it's
If you
based
gotta
on
tow
the
a trailer.
contract. So like I think it's based on the individual tow and what it's for. We went out to RFP a few years ago and there was a response that came back that listed like individual prices for the types of tows. And then I think there was like an hourly rate for, if they needed to do the disposal of the items in there. So I think the price per tow varies depending upon what's being towed and what's in, if I've heard of examples of like a RV filled with tires, that's gonna cost more to tow than, a trailer that's got a couple of boxes on it.
I
So,
just wanna ask the internal auditor, because I know we did an audit on the, which we never really addressed, but we did an audit on the towing company, and I thought there was specific prices that they couldn't charge over. Is that correct or no?
There were two approaches. There was
the, at one point, we were fight extra laborers to remove the garbage, because that was the original way it was. There was no room to have. So I don't know, but we did fund extra positions so that our employees would be willing to save, because they were charging like $100 an hour for labor. But I don't know, does that also coincide with the corridor cleanup? The port service, what is the corridor?
That's different, the corridor, the commercial corridors.
Yeah.
That's a recycling project that we're doing, we started on that, was with the restaurants to help them with their recycling. And it improves our recycling rate, it helps cut down on rodents. We have a handful of restaurants right now participating there. Mr. Simone actually asked me to say how pleased he is with the project. It's allowed some of the restaurants to even reduce their reliance on commercial dumpsters, and it's been a really good project.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to circle back to the port tours. The city was saying we paid out over $200,000 in money at the port tours. So for only budgeting $50,000, I think that's remarkable. So that's doing great. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on environmental? Nice. This thing over, give me a long one. All right, Councilor Peterson.
I noticed that we have, a substantial, somewhat of an increase in the refuse processing, and I wanted to see if Kevin could talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so that is the increase in the cost of processing the waste at Rhode Island Resource and Recovery. And that increase is based on historical spending averages. If you can see last year's budget, our actuals in fiscal year 2024 were 5.1 million. And so the budget for fiscal year 2026 was built using the last 12 consecutive months in a row to see what that total bill would have been. And so we estimated 26 based on prior year actuals.
And then in terms of, excuse me, recycling pickup, that was another pretty significant increase in this budget as well. If I'm looking at it,
Yeah, that's the waste management contract that's going to be discussed.
Got it. And so just a quick follow-up in terms of all of this, because it looks like what's happening is that our recycling loads are contaminated, we have to pay all these overages. What are we doing in terms of, we have a line item here for education on this, and it's clear that that's not enough, right? So what are we doing, or what new initiatives are we willing to try and communicate a little bit more about what this is, because it is a big, increase.
I can address some of that, and then I'll turn around. I can tell you that the environmental division does do a lot of educational outreach. At community events, Pride, PBSS, you name it, distributing literature. When they have, when we participate in and assist with the eco depots that we've helped to host, we ask people as they come in if they're a Providence resident. If they are, then they're provided a packet of information that helps explain a lot about recycling. We have, and I know we'll get to this when we get to waste management, but we've had a number of discussions with waste management about how they can help partner with us to improve our recycling education outreach. I know that Deputy McManus goes to schools and reads to kids about the importance of recycling. You know, we really want to step up the efforts. I think the parks actually will help. The pilot project with the restaurant, as I said, has been very successful, and we'd like to be able to even expand, even though it's less funded. But we think that we have a way to do that. We have a beautiful new truck that we got through the grant to help us with that project, that I think makes a really big difference. And so there's a number of things that we're doing that we want to also improve upon to help people understand why it's important and why it costs a lot of money for people in Providence to not recycle properly. And so we want to help them bring that down. Good.
So, just looking at Providence, right, we have a very diverse city, over 100 different languages spoken, right? So there's a lot of issues of communication, of understanding, so that's something that we're gonna try to do better at. And target like at least the top 5 languages, right, and get out there a little bit more, but also the goal with the cart replacement is the building blocks of the program, right? So if you look at the history of the cart program, it has changed over the years. So at one point, it was a certain color, a certain size, and it's changed slowly throughout the years. And with those communications, I don't know, like I said, if those have been in 100 different languages, probably not. So our goal with doing the replacement carts is to start the building blocks for our residents from square one, right? So everyone has the same carts, there's uniformity, and then we can assist with the different communications, and I think that's something that we have to work on.
Yeah, please, is our constituents fined for contaminated recycling?
They are, yes,
Yes.
there is a, sorry.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I respect this go and when we can, we find an area that hasn't been picked up yet. They target recycling barrels, which you can mostly, determine that they're contaminated because there's trash bags. Fairly visible, so those are targeted, we, there's a lot of issues with recycling, unfortunately, and it stems from the trash barrel. That's the main reason why we're looking into 95-gallon barrels, because we transitioned from a 95-gallon trash barrel many years ago to a 65-gallon. And for most households, that's not enough to contain the trash that they're generating. So we want to go back to the 95 gallons, hopefully, in the trash portion of it will be enough where that overflow of trash won't be affect the recycling, because where else is it going to go? Most people have that issue. They want to get rid of it, and it ends up in the recycling, and that contributes to our contaminated loads. And contaminated loads contribute to over the cap, and everything else just skyrockets here.
If I could just add one other piece of, one of the other aspects of the commercial corridor recycling pilot that we're pursuing is a composting aspect to it, to educate people about how they can better dispose of food waste, which adds a lot to their trash. So that they don't have as much trash, and there's a better way to dispose of their food waste. And so we'd like to be able to try to start that. We've been, Mr. Giuliani has been speaking with a company that is willing to help and partner with us on that, with the pilot project.
I could just make a quick comment. One of the things that I saw as something that was successful in a different city, and I just want to give it as a point of just a recommendation. I had seen, if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Central Falls, but don't quote me on that, where they provided homeowner education as people were continuing to buy multifamily properties and developments of newer properties. One of the things that they were doing was just educating on the way they do their pickup of trash for the new homeowners. I thought it looked like it was really helpful. Granted, Central Falls is only 1 square mile, but it was something that looked like it was an opportunity to just educate a little bit more on how that particular city just does their trash, and hopefully helps support in that way. But thank you for all the things that you guys are doing. They're great.
Yes. Councilor Taylor.
Yes, so, I think we can do a lot better with public education. Because what happens is, in my ward especially, I have a lot of, Cambodian, Hmong, Khmer, Chinese, and we have nothing to give them. And they're trying to do the right thing. In other words, they're on the 3rd floor of the house. They take all their cans and bottles, they put it in the trash can. Trash bag. They're not gonna carry 1 can out at a time. And then they go downstairs and they throw the whole bag in. Then what we do as inspectors, and they do a good job, but they put a little tag, looks like a club drink. Like you get a green one, you can get a drink, you get a red one, you can't get a drink. So they put the red one on it because they got a trash bag in. They don't know what that means. So now, next week, we go down and we empty the whole thing. They do the same thing again and again and again, so the thing's overflowed. And then it turns into what's going on. And then hopefully someone tries to go out and tries to communicate with them, but we don't have any paperwork or anything in their language. So I think, I know waste management's one of the issues on there. This is education and engagement. I don't think I've ever seen them out here doing that in 7 years that I've been here. And it's actually a shame, I know I talked to Al, I'm gonna put Al on the spot, that, because I've been around a while and I asked Al, we actually did better with the blue bins and the green bins as far as numbers, yeah, smaller ones, than we are doing with the big blue ones, because the people put the paper, they put the cans, they know what they do, and it came down. But it's a shame that we're not, I mean, we're under, I believe, still under 10% recycling. You know, and personally, I would like to see us as a council, me anyway, I don't know about you guys, but I'd like to see, us get a report, whether it's a monthly report or a quarterly report. Like what my ward's doing for recycling, like in other words, okay, the West End is doing terrible, Reservoir is doing good.
So
Reservoir is doing bad, West End is, you know what I mean?
we do get a report from, Rhode Island Resource Recovery, but it's the city, so they don't break it down by.
Well, even if we did the city, we're not getting it, that's council.
Oh, right, that's true. If you get it by day, then it's your ward and maybe have another ward.
Yeah.
That's true. That's
Just something so we can look at and try to figure out, and also, and I know this is gonna probably come into the contract, I wanna mention it now, is the bins that are being lost. So John Doe calls me up and says, oh, they came and got the trash can, and they emptied the whole can, that what you call it. So now I gotta call Al, I'll call someone to find out, like, okay, this went, and then he's like, well, I gotta call Waste Management because they have a camera and they see it. 6 out of 10 times, maybe, I'll say that they know about it, Waste Management, but a lot of times they don't know about it. So if we're not calling, like, in other words, whoever's driving that truck and the bin goes in the thing, they should know. And then, you know, I should be able to call Al and he'll say, oh yeah, it's 123 Lexington Street, you know? But when Al calls, they don't have anything.
So
So if something like that, we should be fining them because they're not letting us know.
when we get to that part
Okay.
of the meeting, I kind of, I mean, there's a piece of technology in the new contract called the smart truck that I've asked Mr. Pizza to come and talk about.
Okay.
Which might address some of your
Are you
concerns.
saying that the cart goes in?
Yeah, that's happening in my neighborhood too.
Oh.
And sometimes Waste Management will be like, no, it didn't. And I'm
Right.
like,
I've had
can you
videos,
magic it away?
people actually send me videos that I have to send Al for proof because they're saying no. And I'm like, the lady's got a camera, here's your ring camera, there it is. you
Yeah.
know?
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
All right, yes, Councilor Graves and Councilor Borgia.
Now we're on the education. The libraries, at least I know Smith Hill and a couple of others, they do have, composting
Right.
there. Are we letting,
Here too.
are we letting people know, maybe sending something out, you know, citywide to see if, and I know you're gonna go back to that 100 different languages, which we're not gonna solve. But to help people to realize it, I mean, I had the people come into my community meeting, maybe all of us can have someone come into our individual community meeting and talk about it. But that's one thing, and as for waste management, you guys did come over to my Ward 12 thing and talk about waste management, that's a long time ago, but you did. So maybe we can do that again, there's, you know, maybe you should go, you know, you guys can go to each ward meeting. And just bring it up, I'd be happy to see you and the information is vital because we don't want this to become a really bad habit. What I do want to bring up is the fact that I know a lot of these multi-unit things. They might not go through our recycle thing, but they don't have a big enough spot for all their refuse. I'm speaking mainly about the one on Chalkstone that just went up. It's about this big. And it's supposed to be for all those units that's in that building. So it's always overflowing. We had an issue with rats before, and I can see the issue coming back again because of it. Is there anything that we can do or whatever to ensure that they have bigger things and that they're picking them up more frequently, because I don't know if that gets picked up once a week or twice a week, but it's always okay.
So, respectfully, Councilwoman, I think that would be more of an issue with maybe DIS. With building officials in terms of when a building like that goes up, if it's more than 6 units, it's not.
I know, but under-
Service
Mhm.
under the waste management contract, and so the size of the receptacle or the dedication of space for that purpose is something that wouldn't be in DPW's.
And that's fair. Friends.
Okay, all right, Council Perkins.
Thank you. And I see this department. Environment department is the one who needs at least 2 more people, 2 more laborers in it. Because it's the most complaining department that you have in the whole DPW department. You get complaints from 311, and you get complaints from us. Because the constituents call us, and then instead to waste my time to call downstairs 311, and will take 24 hours to get to the right source, I make the phone call straight to the director. Because if they left the trash behind, 311 will take 24 hours to get that. The phone call to you there. But going to the point, we have a rat problem. Or like, to put in better words, rodent problem. By giving this milk stuff that you're trying to get implement, I think it's not going to work. We have to work and have a better plan how to attack these little animals in the whole city before we come up with a new trash card. Because this rat will go through metal. They will eat everything. If we don't have anything ready or better plan or poison the whole city against rats, no matter how much money we'll spend on new cards, they will go through them.
So I could address the rat, one of the things that you talked about, and then I would ask Deputy McManus to address it as well. Just for those of you that might not know what Councilman Vargas is referring to when he said the milk, it's a new kind of rat abatement. It's a product that is non-toxic to people, it's non-toxic to other animals and pets. Birds could eat it, they're not gonna die. And it's, for lack of a better term, birth control for rats.
Yeah.
It doesn't kill the rat, it renders them incapable of procreating. And so it eventually does reduce the rat population. And so it's a more environmentally friendly method. There's a form of it that it's like a milkshake, if you will. And then there's another form that we've started using that look like little sausages. And it has been shown in other jurisdictions to be an effective way to abate the rat population. I think that, you know, it's not just that can't be the only thing that you do to try to combat the rat population. It has to be a multi-pronged approach, right? So you have to have a better trash containment system. You have to deal with your illegal dumping issue, which is a whole other thing. And so there's many aspects to it, but I think that we've really been trying to give that a chance, and we have seen a decrease in the rat population. I recently had a chance to look at what the city of Boston is doing with their rat population. They have a much worse rat issue than Providence does, and they have a rat czar. And so thankfully, I don't think we're at the same level as Boston, but if Maureen, do you want to talk more about the rat?
Yeah.
Birth control.
I could talk all night, but I'll be really, so just to talk about education first, so if any council person would like magnets, they're color, they have graphics, they're only in 2 languages, but it's hard to fit it all on a small magnet. So we have English and Spanish, so I can get you guys boxes of those, if you are going to be in your council meetings and in your events, any of them, they have reach out. As it relates to organics. So right now, I don't know if anyone's heard of the schools recycling project, but I've been working closely with them for over 3 years, and we are in 52 Providence public schools right now. So we are teaching the new generation how to recycle and how to do organic. So we actually have award ceremony, so the end of the year coming up this whole month. So if anyone has one of those schools in their ward, come to the ceremony, you can see it in action, it's wonderful, and it's teaching the new generation that might be bilingual to go home and teach their parents how to recycle in their native language and in English. So I think it's really important. And when it comes to rodent birth control, so yes, milkshake, it's delicious, the rodents love it, but the goal is to be a sustainable solution, not just to poison the rodents, because when we poison the rodents, we poison their natural predators. So we are also killing thousands of their natural predators every year. That includes owls, that includes hawks, any type of raptor. So as we poison them with the second generation poison, we are also poisoning the natural predator. So this is actually told by many folks in the community for rodent baiting and also for people in conservation that this is the solution moving forward. So I did bring a little flyer, I'll pass it around, but I can get you guys as much information as you want, and currently it's in a pilot program, but we can talk about it when we start.
And is there data showing that our rat population, I don't know how you count them, is decreasing? I mean, would we know that? I mean, so you say it's working, so how do we know that? How do we know it's working? I'm just asking.
So right now, this is a pilot, it hasn't been in effect for more than a year, but it takes some time to work. Chris might have some information about the work he's gotten, but we can provide you what preliminary data we have so far, but it's gonna take a little bit more time than another type of solution that they also put in.
Okay, I meant that there's data that it's an effective product.
Oh, okay, thank you.
And one of the aspects in Boston, that they started with was literally an audit. It was a very expensive, and extensive, complicated audit of their rat problem, believe it or not. And so I don't think that we have the capacity right now to do that kind of audit, so that's why we run the rats are.
Yes, a follow-up, Councilor Vargas?
Yes, I would like to have a list. All the areas that you've been using these famous milkshake. Rat poison, I would like also to have a list which areas or schools those your deputy director have visited. In the community also.
Sure, I mean, the list of, we only date residences, so I could provide you the wards. I don't think should provide names of people.
I don't need names, I don't need
But
addresses.
streets.
I'm not planning to ask you for something that I know is labeled. I'm asking for areas.
Sure.
Okay, Councilor Anderson.
Thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the rat issue. And really thank Deputy Director McManus for her work on this, because what we're finding, like, not just in Providence, but especially in Providence, is when we, and she already said this, but just to reiterate, when we just poison the rats, it feels really good in the moment. Well, I don't think it feels good, but like, it feels good. You're like, oh, this thing sucks. I killed this rat. But actually then the birds of prey who can eat hundreds and hundreds of rats per year die because they're eating these poisoned rats. And then instead of us having natural rat control through the owls and, all sorts of these birds of prey, which live across all of our neighborhoods, like there's tons of them that live on the Superman building. There's tons that live in the North Battleground. They're killing hundreds of rats a year each for us. And when we use the poison, it feels so good in the moment, but like we're killing those birds and then we're losing the natural rat protection. So if anything, we should be like really increasing the bird population. It feels silly to say, but like, because I don't love rats. We have rats in my neighborhood as well. A lot of folks were doing composting really badly in their backyards, total huge rat problem throughout the neighborhood. And but like just poisoning them it only kills a few and then it really kills the birds. So I just coming up with innovative ways that doesn't kill their natural predators. I'm like really grateful for that, because so good to find it. So feels so good to have the easy, quick solution, but then like long-term, we're shooting ourselves in the foot.
Councilor Graves. Thank you. I'm gonna go back on the date statement, stuff. Thank you. You only do it to, a house where the owners live? That's what I was told. Yeah, only but then I found out that wasn't necessarily true, but in a city where it is less than, well, almost 30%, 34% of, homeowners living in, period. It's really bad because even if they do bake around their house and you only keep it there for so long, you don't come back and redo it. It's not helping. It's really not. It's a Band-Aid and a cheap one. It comes off too quickly. I think we need to address that, because I had to fight to get the person across the street one because their mother had died. So the house was still in their name. They were going through these things and they wouldn't go over there and bake that house. And it's like, look, this makes no sense. The family's still there. It's the same family. And they're telling you they had an issue, and why are they coming to us? So I think we might want to be less rigid on how this is done. If we can get the landlord to say, yes, you can, I'll send you a letter, so you can bake. Do bake it, whatever. Then I think that maybe that's what we need to do, because like I said, it's just a waste of time. It really is.
It may be based on a capacity issue. We currently have a backlog of our road abating for owner occupied properties. It's definitely a capacity issue.
Okay, I'm gonna say that we have quite a bit of.
Yeah.
We have to go through the employees management contract meeting at 7 o'clock, so
We got
just giving everyone a check. And I will proceed with the presentation. Please.
Okay, we are now in the garage division. The itemized budget information is included on page 342. This is not a revenue generating division. Total expenditures in this division are $1,259,229. This represents a $50,000 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget, or 4.18%. Slide 13, fiscal year 2025 salaries are budgeted at $513,169. This, in fiscal year 2026, we are making an adjustment for a cost of living increase for $14,117. Slide 14. Both or all of the line items in this budget are considered discretionary. There's $20,000 for lubricant, $200,000 for auto parts. This is for the entire DPW fleet for items that are procured in-house. $30,000 for tires. There's $30,000 for any sort of external repairs that cannot be done in the in-house shop. And there's $3,000 for DMV related registrations or other duties that are incurred by this division.
Have any questions? Maybe we don't have to ask questions for this.
Can I just have just on the salaries overall?
Okay, so
So, of the salaries that are over 100,000, are they getting, salary increase across the board?
Employees who earn a salary of 100,000 or a grade A23, because for the ordinances, we have to kind of cut it off of a table on the book, are not included for COLA. All other non-union salaries are, and all 1033 salaries, regardless of amount of earnings, are included.
So the unions also are getting,
So if there's a union position, and I haven't done the analysis if this exists, but if there were a union position that was earning $100,000 or more, it would still be eligible for the COLA because it would be required for their CBA.
thank you.
okay, yes, Councilor Hill.
What about sworn police and fire, non-union?
There is an increase in for sworn non-police and fire non-union.
So they do get it.
They do get it according to the
I
budget.
guess my question is why? Like, why wouldn't we be fair? I would come in the union, if I'm sworn fireman and he's the head of DPW. I'm gonna get a raise.
Everyone
he's
may.
not. Why would, I don't get that.
If I may, contractually, as you know, you're obligated to the union members to provide that benefit.
No, I understand, but the non-union fire and police, I'm saying the non-union fire and police, I was a chief. so
And
if I would-
typically,
I would not
that's
get it.
always been passed on. That's the only basis.
Okay, so you make more than 100 grand. Are you getting it?
No. No, I understand that, but I mean, the rank and file, whatever it was contractually obligated to the rank and file would be passed on to the non-union police or fire sworn personnel.
I guess my question again, hold on, I'm gonna jump to you. But what is, what are we talking about?
For,
What are we talking about as agents?
for the
For
non.
whoever's not getting it.
It's about $500,000.
I estimated it 300,000. Okay. I had to look at them. And I have no comment coming out.
Yes, please.
And Larry, we've been here for over 25 years, only 1 year that the non-union did not get the same raise as the temporary.
It was a 4% increase when Mayor Cicilline was the mayor. That 1033 was going to get, I think it was his first year, and we didn't get it. That was 1 year, Larry. I don't know any other year, but
I believe in the first year of the May to Bears in the 2011.
the fiscal horror, the category
Yeah, I
5.
think everybody was put out these.
We didn't get that for the following year. We didn't get rid of that they run that year. I can check it out.
I wanna go on the record and say that I don't think it's right. Everybody should get, if it's a raise, they all should get a raise, non-union, union, police, fire. It's, you were dividing the city by doing that, I think, my personal opinion.
Okay, thank you. So, yes, Councilor Sanchez.
I just wanna let the record reflect, that I also share that same opinion.
Okay,
Thank you.
okay, and Councilor Vargas.
Yeah,
Well,
can you explain me between what lubricants and auto parts are? Because when you buy auto parts and lubricants, it's kind of the same. Why?
Insane.
The same category,
Oh, insane.
the same. No, I said the same.
Councilman, that is not consistency across all of our divisions that have auto part expenditures. You'll see the same thing in the police and fire department budgets where they have large auto expenditures. The reason for the split out between auto parts and lubricants is not one that I'm aware of, but I do know.
I do
historically-
aware, I put that at that first. That's why, that's what I'm asking you.
Well,
Councilor Vargas. There's a back and forth going on.
I'm sorry, so
I'm so sorry, I can't
So
allow
sorry.
that. 'Cause
All
I
right.
can't hear it, and then, I'm sorry, you need to move along.
Okay, can, Madam Chair, can she finish?
Yes, you understand what he asked?
I believe the question is, why do we budget lubricants separately from auto parts? Is that the question?
That's
Okay, yes, please answer that if you can.
Yeah, so the history of every budget I prepared, those line items have been budgeted separately as different line items and have been tracked as independent purchases. They do all roll up to the supply category in the ordinance.
That's an answer that you understand.
It is.
I agree with it. Yes, I understand that.
One last one.
Okay.
Who has the contract for the auto parts?
I believe it's a blanket contract that's issued to public property.
So they can use any auto parts?
No, there's an RFP that's issued, and then respondents reply to the RFP. There's a blanket award to the people who respond, and all departments are able to purchase off of that blanket.
Would purchasing now, property, public property, when they come,
Yes, public property, we can be prepared to talk about that blanket contract process. if you'd
we'll
like.
revisit that in public property. Just remember.
Thank you.
All right,
Thank you.
okay.
Good question.
Okay. We are in the highway division now, and Madam Chair, from a procedural standpoint, this is a department that had fees restructured in the ordinance, but is before you tonight. I'm not sure if you want to discuss those while we're doing the budget, or if you want to do that separately.
Oh, you mean the ordinances that we have? Well, we have them scheduled for later.
Okay.
So, can we just say that, numbers here, are they inclusive of the increase?
They are. Yes, all of the numbers in the budget are inclusive of the projected increases in the funds.
Okay, so just the council, council members, we are going to maybe, because I'm not sure we'll reach it, but, we do have all those ordinances that were introduced last Thursday, or last council meeting, to increase the fines that were all before us tonight. We can't reach them tonight. we will be continuing that until our next meeting, but this, for purposes of what we're doing here, please, know that those increased fines are included.
They are.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm. Slide 14, as I had mentioned earlier in this presentation, these revenues are not generated by the highway division. They are typically from engineering permit fees. The largest permit fees are dumpster permit fees. These are for temporary dumpsters. That will be encroaching along a sidewalk or road, as well as engineering related permits that are issued by the
Talking about page 16.
I'm on page 16.
And on our budget books now, we are,
Oh, yes, in our budget books, we are on page 244.
thank you. Please go ahead.
Total revenues in fiscal year 2026 are budgeted at $387,000, which does represent an increase over the fiscal 25 budget of $237. This increase is attributable to the fines and fees work that is done from the ordinance that is being proposed. Slide 17. Total expenditures in this division are $6,131,000. This represents a $148,000 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $5,982,000, or 2.49%. And now moving on to slide 18. Fiscal year 2025 salaries in this division were $2,900,927. There are cost of living increases in this division of $60,643. Step increases of $2,508. Additionally, this department has defunded a vacant dispatcher position. That annual salary was $61,973. For total proposed fiscal year 2026 salaries of $2,902,105. And information on current staff and vacancy levels can be found on the highway and bridge maintenance org chart in your comments. If you're comfortable, we're moving on to slide 19. The first fixed cost, which is a large line item in this budget, is street sweeping. This is required per city ordinance and this is city contract. It is not a change from fiscal year 2025 and has been level funded. Total supplies in this department are $291,500. They are made up of $225,000 for asphalt products. This is both hot and cold patch materials. $5,000 for temporary speed bumps and road plating. $20,000 for small tools and shop supplies that are required. $25,000 for cement and plaster products, such as ready mix and sidewalk materials. Housekeeping supplies have a modest increase of $5,000. And this is cleaning supplies for TPW, as well as a considerable amount of trash bag liners that they're required to buy for various locations. There is a small budget for lumber and hardware at $1,500, and uniforms and wearing are open budget at $90,000. This is for safety uniforms or materials, as well as uniform cleaning service. And that wrap, oh, I'm sorry. Additionally, there's capital in this budget, so on slide 20. You'll see that in fiscal year 2026, there's $50,000 budgeted for structures and improvement. These are funds that are available for non-CIP capital repairs that come up in the fiscal year. This represents a $45,000 decrease from fiscal year 2025. But the primary purpose of this decrease is we do have CIP funding dollars on hand, and this is a tight operating budget, so we wanted to try to utilize those dollars that are accounted for, focus on capital improvement projects while preserving some budgetary amount in the operating budget for future needs.
May I just ask, first of all, why are you paying for street sweeping? Do we not have the equipment to do our own?
We do, we split between our own personnel and street sweeping equipment, and we also have a vendor, so it's augmented by a vendor.
Okay. All right, questions? Yes, Councilor Ingerbell.
Thank you. Thank you for the presentation. Two questions I have are, why is there an increase in the asphalt products, but a decrease in the cement products?
So we, through the master lease, were able to purchase a asphalt oven, it's like a thing that fits on a trailer that keeps hot asphalt hot. So there's not the same back and forth to get more hot asphalt. It allows more efficiency. Because of that, we've been able to do more capital filling.
Okay.
So that is plus pressure.
Okay, and what's the decrease for cement? Are we just doing less sidewalks, or like what's the?
So the cement decrease was really based on historical trend. If you see, in fiscal year 2023, a budget of $60,000 went towards $14,000 worth of materials and supplies. And we did know that we would need funding for the hot patch, so the decision was made to take some of the funding that was not being used in the asphalted products and move it into the, I'm sorry, into the cement plaster products and move it into asphalted products so that the funding would be available where it's cement.
Okay, and can I ask one more question? For the temporary speed bumps and road plates, why is that going down by $10,000? Are we able to like reuse past year speed bumps, or is it?
Sometimes, but, my understanding that there's funding in another
Yes.
part of the budget from the traffic engineer.
So the school traffic calming and safety fund, reconciliation is included in your packet. There are insufficient funding in that line item for this. And again, if you look at the trend on historical spending in this line, I do know that miscellaneous expenses were a little bit high at $9,000. But again, we're planning on utilizing the speed traffic calming fund and CIP dollars for some of that.
Okay, okay, then I'll ask questions then. Okay, thank you. Appreciate that.
Questions? Yes, Councilor Sanchez.
Hey, Chairwoman. Just definitely want to publicly recognize Sal and his department. Definitely has helped out a bunch in Ward 6 and I'm sure across the city. So thank you, Sal. My questions are, can you just quickly go over any vacancies in this division?
This division has seen a lot of movement in the last, I would say, 6 months. People in and out, new people coming in, so that it feels like we're always having some postings in highway. And as you can imagine, if one person leaves, then there's like this domino effect where people bid on the temporary promotional opportunity, it causes them to have to backfill. Currently, we have, I want to say 5 labor openings. There's a heavy equipment opening, there's foreman opening, and what am I missing? Thank you.
What do you think?
Two heavy equipment operators and 2 cement finishers.
It would have been helpful if we could have had the vacancies on the front.
They're included immediately behind the chart. There's a list of all the employees which was have vacancies.
Oh, that helps. Thank you for pointing
You knew
out.
that.
I see it now.
She's getting to know.
You have everything.
There you go.
Does everyone see that?
Yeah.
Okay. Councilor Sanchez, do you have any follow-up on that?
No, thank you.
Okay, yes, Councilor Peterson.
Thank you. Discussion of finance, have we done a review of the salaries for the positions in general for the city? I just feel like with situations like this where DPW has so many open opportunities, I'm wondering if it's because we're not on par with what might be what the market rate would be, for lack of a better word, and I'm wondering if salary review has come in to do any sort of review on all of our salary across the board.
So, Councilman, the most recently ratified 1033 union contract before the council for consideration includes a provision that a work study will be done citywide of each department by position, and it's due to be reported back to the council by December of 2026. State study time over the ensuing fiscal year. It's meant to include things like skill set, et cetera, and ideally it would address issues where there are inequities, and certainly would make recommendation to the administration, to the city council.
Just a quick follow-up, Chief, if I could, when was the last time that any sort of a review on salaries was done for the city?
I'm going to say about 6 years ago, it was done in the prior administration. While it was a formal report, I don't think it was ever acted on by the council.
Okay, all right, thank you. Yes,
Sorry, for Councilor.
Thank you. Can you just describe or what is where in the budget and what is that amount for the gas used for the vehicles? The DPW,
Yep.
gas and electric, you got these electrical, what is the charges for those things?
So the electric would be in the heat, like power budget, which will be a part of sustainability's presentation tomorrow. The vehicle fuel is in public properties budget, which will be included in their budget tomorrow. So all of the vehicles that are in the city fleet, purchase gas under a contract procured by the Department of Public Property, and all of the charges relating to that contract reside in their budget.
Okay. So for DPW's purpose, you keep an eye out in terms of expenses of that or savings of usage?
So that's part of what our fleet manager does, is review the gasoline usage and try to figure out better ways to be more efficient in how we're using gas.
Would you know what, I mean? Do you know what that number is for DPW at this moment?
I do not know that at this moment, but I could ask the fleet manager to be prepared with information on DPW's gas usage for tomorrow.
Right, that will be helpful, yeah. Even with this presentation, I think it's it should be included in essence, so that way, I mean, yeah. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Anyone else? Yes, Councilor Vargas.
Thank you very much. Can you please provide me an answer? How many trucks or cars out of this division goes out of the city of Providence?
Say it again, I'm sorry.
How many cars,
How many cars?
an employee out of this division goes out the city every day, like they take it home?
We take home.
Yeah, take home.
So we have. There are 7 people who are allowed to take their vehicle home. It's myself, the deputy, the head of highway and his deputy, the head of sewer and his deputy, and then the traffic engineering signal division foreman. The reason for these individuals taking their vehicles home are they are all in a position to respond after hours or to emergencies. And so they are afforded that ability. For people, I'll use the traffic engineering foreman as an example. If he has a lot of equipment that he needs to respond to an emergency, it makes more sense for him to have it all in the vehicle that he would use to respond to the emergency, rather than having to respond from home, go to the DPW, get the equipment, switch the vehicle. It just makes more sense. It's more efficient that way. But every one of these people is in a position where they would respond to after hours emergencies, and also they are adherent and aware of the personal use vehicle policy. Yes.
Do you have a list? How many emergencies we have been having in the last? I've been at council like 3 years. I haven't seen no emergency, but you might see those. How many emergencies that we have so far that these employees have to come back from their home rushing? Even in the rush hour when they don't have no sirens in those trucks, wasting our taxpayers' gasoline in trucks.
Respectfully, I disagree that it's a waste. When there's a sewer backup emergency, Dave Mambro doesn't hesitate to respond. That happens with some frequency. Certainly, and his deputy also is among personnel that respond to that kind of issue. Highway similarly is called on to respond to incidents that happen in the city that involve his division. He and or his deputy respond to that. Certainly snow is a good example, and that's, I can tell you that I've responded to at least 5 snow events this past winter. The traffic engineering signal division, that's not the kind of thing you want to delay till the next day. If a red light is out, people's lives are in jeopardy, and so you want him to be able to respond quickly, and by having the use of the city vehicle with his tools in it, he's able to do that very efficiently. So I understand your concern, but I can tell you that for a department this size to have this relatively small number of people, I think we're being very judicious about that privilege and using it in the manner in which it was intended.
Thank you. Are you finished?
Not yet.
Okay,
Can
I'm
I-
gonna ask, wrap it up, so could you hurry?
Sure.
Okay.
Is any way that we can save or think different, which employees should take the car home I don't see a need for a deputy director to take a car home, if you have a director on place.
So I'll be perfectly honest, Ms. McManus has not taken her vehicle home in probably a year or more, due to the current state of the vehicle in question, which we're dealing with, but I think, you know, that issue aside, I think it's perfectly acceptable for a deputy director to have that ability to respond, just as the director would, because if I'm not available, she stands in my shoes. So, it's, I think, perfectly reasonable for the people at the level of the department who are allowed this privilege to have that privilege. But it's not, I mean, I'm calling it a privilege, but it's a necessity and it benefits the city because it enhances our ability to respond quickly to what could be a very serious emergency.
Counselor Sanchez. Okay. Any other questions before we move on? Okay.
The next division is the Parking Administration Division. The numbers for this budget begin on page 247 in your budget book. And on slide 22. Parking Administration is a revenue generating department. This revenue is generated through meter fees, micro-mobility revenue, and overnight parking improvements. Slide 23. Total expenditures in this division are $825,766. This represents a 21.01% increase of $143,376. Total salaries in fiscal year 2025 are $243,062. There's a cost of living increase of $4,459 for total fiscal year 2026 salaries of $247,521. On to slide 25. This department has a small service and supply line item budget. Their first fixed cost is private contractors. That's budgeted at $305,000. It's a $114,000 increase. And that is largely due to the new meters that were installed last year. There are service fees associated with those meters. Additionally, there's been $100,000 budgeted for parking signage updates. That is a one-time investment to try to bring our signs into compliance with the actual metering process. Right now, some of the signs are very, very outdated and have incorrect information on them, and the parking administrator would like to correct that in the upcoming fiscal year. Under their supplies line item, there's $5,000 budgeted in machinery and equipment. This is to replace poles for those meters as necessary in the fiscal year. And there's $50,000 budgeted in maintenance and service. This is for parking permit tags, receipt papers, and POINT for the parking collection. And that wraps up this division in our presentation.
Okay, Ashley Taylor.
How many people throughout the DPW work remotely? Anyone
Work remotely?
work remotely? Anybody working remotely at all?
Per city policy, there are opportunities, there's limits in the, I don't have the policy in front of me. There's limits in
I
the
don't know,
policy.
but is there anybody working remotely in throughout the whole DPW?
Yes.
How many people? And why? And how many
Don't know
days?
the number off the top of my head.
And how many
People
days?
whose type of, a handful. I would say people whose type of work lends itself to that possibility. There are times when, you know, sometimes you need to finish a project and you can't in the office because the phone's always ringing or someone's always walking in and you're under a deadline. If you're doing the kind of work where really you can do your work anywhere as long as you're on the computer. We do have people that avail themselves of that opportunity.
How many days do they work remotely?
So the policy is, limits you to, I think, a couple of days a week. I know that there are people that do less than that. There are people that, you know, don't do it every week. Most people don't do it every week.
And how long has these people, the handful, been working remotely since COVID?
So this predates me coming to DPW and I believe like everywhere else it had its origins in COVID. Sure.
All right, I guess let me go back. Does she work?
Who's she?
I'm saying the curbside administrator, Melanie Jewett, does she work remotely? Because I can never get a hold of her. And I actually had a problem on Natalie Avenue that I actually gave the person that kept calling me day after day after day after day. I gave her her phone number and email, and she had the same issue. Well, I don't know where she is. I've never met her. Don't know her. I know I was used to deal with Nate, sending the stuff, and he could send it to Melanie. But I don't know where she is.
So I would encourage you, any of you, if you encounter an issue with any of the staff at DPW, that's a call to me. But I can tell you that, you know, shout out to Melanie. I believe she's watching us because she's on that leave right now. But she is, it's Melanie and 3 blue collar leaders. And so she is very, very much inundated. And this year, especially for reasons, I mean, maybe it's because of the new meters, but there's been a wave of things like sign requests and that kind of work. And it's intensive work, and certainly we hope that the implementation of the asset management system that we've started using is going to help with that, and it will help track some of the work. Sometimes there's a blur between what's Melanie's and what's Nate's, and so somebody's communicated with Melanie and asked for something, and she said it's all set, and they're waiting, and they're thinking it's Melanie, but it's making its way over to Nate's end of the process, and so it's not anyone's fault, it's just the process. But certainly any issues you ever have, call me.
How many meters, last question.
Yes.
How many meters, I know we got new ones, but how many meters are still out there broken?
I don't have that number up yet. It's not many.
That's it.
Okay, yes, Councilor Ingerball.
Thank you. I won't ask you about parking around Moses Brown because we've talked about that so much, but I'm just teasing, sorry. 2 questions I have. One is for the private contractors, I know we have to pay a percentage for folks who are like paying with the credit card or whatever. What percentage do we get versus goes to the private vendor? I feel like for like the traffic cameras, it's awful. Is it the same kind of thing?
No, it's not. I don't have those contracts with me, but it's like a percentage of the revenue they collect, but it's not like.
It's not like
percentage, it's a small percentage. I don't have it, but I don't get it.
Okay, that'd be awesome. And then this is a super minor thing, and I can put this in the email, but for the parking permits, have we ever thought about doing just like a visitor pass? I know this has come up in my community for like, maybe you have a driveway, you park there, you're good, but then you have someone visit, they're gonna park on the street. You can't do that. You can't get them an overnight pass. I was asking Melanie this the other day. There's no like short-term visitor pass. And so people just risk it, and like, otherwise we could be getting revenue from them. If like, people ask me all the time, oh, where should I get this visitor pass? I'm like, oh, we don't have them because the enforcement's pretty low, they just risk it, but we could be charging them for that.
Sure, I mean, I know you've discussed this with Melanie as well. I mean, there is a visitor pass that can come with your.
Yeah, only if you only have one, but if you have a
Right.
driveway.
But if
and
you have a driveway, and you don't have a parking permit.
And you just want like a visitor to come by and
I
the driveway's not big.
I understand where you're coming from, but something that I would certainly explore. I can say though, if enforcement is low.
Yeah.
I don't know how motivated a person's gonna be to pay for a visitor pass, you
Yeah.
know, but.
Yeah, you guys have been hitting up inside with the enforcement, so. Miguel says I can't have visitors, so I guess that's the solution.
Other questions? Yes. Councilor Jordan.
Thank you, for a couple. What is the parking meter cash returns? What is that? Can you just describe that a little bit?
Oh, and the revenues?
Yes,
So that's the account description, those are the, coin deposits, so the actual coins that are deposited into the meter.
all right. Micro mobility revenue.
Those are the scooters that you'll see around, they pay a fee to have their scooters in Providence and bicycles.
Along the line with the visitors pass. Again, I think we as a city are becoming more enforcing these parking in neighborhoods, especially Friday over to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday. Has DPW at least come up with some other ideas that can help with that, but also other ideas to generate revenues through parking? Or any other ideas in terms of generating revenues?
So some of the fines and fees that I know we're gonna talk about later is part of that. Some of those fines and fees haven't been changed in a very, very long time.
Yeah.
in terms of parking administration, I can say that the new meters are definitely helping with that because there's not as many broken meters. And all of the meters take multiple forms of payment, which before it was kind of like dependent on what kind of meter you ended up parking in front of. And so there's other aspects to the new meters that we bought, which may enable us in the future to pilot there's other ways that those meters can be run that could generate more revenue. Not making any sense. Hey, you pull up to the meter and you're gonna be there for an hour, right? So you see the meter for an hour. Well, your meeting got cut short, and so you leave and there's a half hour left on that meter. I come along, bonus 30 minutes that I didn't have to pay for. There's a capability in these meters that we're exploring where when you pull away, the meter resets. So.
Yeah, I remember touring.
Yes.
I remember touring your facility and you described that, which is great. Well, not for not for the visitors or at least people that are paying, but at least for the city. But have you, or can you explore using technology where someone is at home, they can log on to or go on their phone and get a visitor pass and pay it online?
So.
Just like if you were going into
the short-term visitor pass that I think, Councilwoman.
Yeah, those two, I mean, to
That's
do,
something that we can explore.
like, just to go on your phone and pay it on, just like any other service and be able to
Yeah,
have it and have it printed out on their own ways.
in terms of an app, we haven't explored that, but you can go online on your phone and do the whole overnight permit application and do it that way.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, yes, Councilor Vargas?
Thank you very much. Can you please explain me this private contractor with Brinks, $305,000?
So Brinks is not the $305,000. Brinks is $25,000. There's $180,000 for IPS, that's the company that creates the machines. There's a service fee associated with those machines of $15,000 per month. And then there's $100,000 for new parking signs. So that total of the $25,000, the $180 for IPS, and the $100 for parking signs is the $305. But Brinks is only $25,000 of that.
Yes.
How much we making?
So that's that is the parking meter tax returns revenue. That is the
500,000?
500,000.
Yes, go ahead.
Can we have this goes to the director, like a sticker type when somebody get a permit, overnight permit? Because to avoid to call the police, hey, it's a car parked in the front of my house, it's been there like the whole night, what the car is doing there, so to hold the phone call or to move an officer to go to an emergency, he won't go to emergency because he will attend my phone call to go check this car and this car has an overnight permit. Is any way that we can create a little sticker that says that they can put in the windshield, it has an overnight.
So I know that this has been a topic of inquiry, and in fact, I think you asked about this last year when Melanie was here, and she talked.
I think
about
Melanie is
how-
watching too, though.
I think she might, I know that I believe that there was a similar system, if not stickers, at sometime in the past. And the details escape me right now, but I recall that Melanie had reasons why that wasn't as workable as it might seem on the surface, but let me commit to getting back to you on that, and I'll give you a better answer. Yes.
The last will be is, these only 3 people department or division, merge this with the division of Nate also, because they work together, one gets signed, the other order signed, the other go crazy with signs. Why we don't merge these 2 departments in one department and we'll save money in the long run?
I appreciate that suggestion.
We're not firing nobody, we can merge it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Councilor Graves.
What is the protocol for these Russian trucks, big trucks? parking on the streets overnight and all throughout the day. Because I'm getting more, I don't know where they're coming from, all of a sudden I'm getting all these trucks. In my community parking on the street, they're there nights, and some of them, if they're off for 3 days, I guess, and on the road for 4, and for 3 days, they're there. All day and all night. What if anything is the protocol for that?
Oh, we as the council, we passed a budget, an ordinance that they're not supposed to be there. They're supposed to be there within a certain amount of time. Problem is, I think, is enforcement.
That's what I was gonna
Should we
say,
call
because, yeah, right.
You would call it like non-emergency line or something, like what are we?
I don't,
What did you
I
guys-
call it non-emergency line, tell them.
Oh, okay.
Or I send, an email, text message to, Captain St. Louis. Tell them the trucks are parked there, and he sends out parking enforcement to tag them. But unfortunately, it's not that expensive, so they rather
Keep on-
park
they'd
there,
rather
keep
park-
getting
keep
5
it-
tags, you know,
If we increase that.
yeah. No, we did not, we did not, no,
That's $100.
it should be on there.
It needs to
Because
be
Hartford,
increased.
Connecticut and Baltimore charge $500. Be parked on the street.
That's $100.
$100.
Yeah.
All right. Questions? Yes, yes.
And thank you. First, traffic engineering, all of you, Melanie and Nate. I appreciate all the work that you've done in Ward 14. I know that we've given you a little bit of a headache. And I apologize ahead of time. Thank you very much for being so obedient on a lot of the things that are happening over there. It's very much appreciated by the neighbors in that specific area of the neighborhood and, by myself personally. I do have a quick question with regards to a couple of salaries, in this particular department. I noticed that there was a traffic engineering electrician position that was raised at 75,000 for, this current fiscal year. That's the salary for, but then the height is to 96,000 for this coming year. And then the same situation is happening for a traffic signal meter per person, where you have it budgeted for FY 25 with the current budget at 85, and then we're doing a pretty significant salary hike in FY 26 for 115. So I'm trying to understand a little bit about how that kind of came about as we're trying to figure out how to utilize our teams in more efficient ways with these hikes. For me, I wonder, like, comes back to the same question that I had previously, is like, are we doing enough to review the salaries at current state? Because it sounds like this is a little bit off on just the multiple, not just this department in general. I'm talking about, as we've done a lot of these, there seems to be a little bit of a discrepancy as we're kind of budgeting out for future years, and that's it's something that we should be discussing.
If I can speak to those two positions, and then
I appreciate it.
I'll ask Nate to clean up everything that I got wrong.
Okay.
So, those two positions kind of work hand in hand, and the electrical one, lower of the two, has been practically impossible to recruit.
Okay.
And so not only in other, not only in the private sector, but similar positions in the city. And so that was the reason for trying to increase that, because that, person kind of wants to be trained by the person in the higher position. So the person in the higher position is currently eligible to retire, or soon eligible to retire. And in order to try to maintain some continuity and recruit to the lower position and have someone who can train that person in the lower position, that was why there was that increase getting to the higher position. Did I get that part?
So those numbers, I'm not really sure that salary is, I'm not sure that the practicing is one is getting that much.
Well, we can refer back to the 25 salary supplement, the personnel supplement, that's where I found it.
Yeah. We'd like to get clarification. But just to elaborate a little bit more on what the director said, so we did make a proposal to increase the private signal foreman's salary. He's the person that is ready to retire, or have other opportunities. We've had, there's always been two people in the civil electrician position, expecting there would be a civil electrician, that left, and we had a very difficult time filling that position. So the plan was to, and to retain traffic civil foreman, who has decades of traffic civil, experience. We proposed a significant increase in his salary to retain him, that went through. The idea was he was gonna stay on for 2 or 3 years and train the traffic civil electrician, so we still haven't filled the traffic civil electrician position. Mainly because I'd like to get some clarification, it was my understanding that wasn't, that traffic civil electrician wasn't, so. And if we did, in our argument, we compare if, because if Tony retires with no one to fill his position, we would lose our ability to make a signal city. The option of a vendor was much more expensive.
Yeah.
I don't remember from me, it was something like $170,000.
Thank you.
So we thought the salary was.
I appreciate that. Can I just follow up? Yep. As I continue to kind of review some of these things and include the personnel supplements and seeing that we're having a consistent issue of filling vacant positions in various departments. I wonder what we're doing as a city to work with our investment in First Source and making sure that we utilize Providence residents to kind of fill these positions with some proper training. I wanna, it's an opportunity of funding that we have available for constituents and for residents to be elected. I think, it's just a nice opportunity for us to be able to do more with what we have and what we're investing in, and as well as our Providence City residents, to make sure that they're able to fill these positions with pretty significant sustainable wages.
Thanks.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Is that a question? Councilor Pachoda?
I do. On the environmental court liaison. Is that
Where are we?
We're not there.
I'm on the, oh, we're not there yet?
Yeah.
Okay, let me just check. All right, never mind.
All right.
Take that back, I'll come back.
Okay, on we go.
Alright, we are in Public Works Administration. And in my budget book, on page 249. This division does not generate revenue. Total budget fiscal year 2026 is proposed at $1,312,394. This is a $60,000 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget of $1,252,259, or 4.8%. Total salaries in fiscal year 2025 were $779,677. There were cost of living increases of $13,936 and step increases of $11,540. For total salaries of $805,153. When looking at fixed discretionary costs, we see that this division has postage as its first discretionary cost at $2,000. Dues and subscriptions are budgeted at $10,000. This is DDL testing reimbursements and membership dues. Under the supplies category, we have office supplies budgeted at $7,700. Section.
Yes.
Yeah, we got a question.
Okay.
No, go ahead.
So the environmental license, right? Though she goes to court every day.
No.
What is her position? What is her role or her job?
Sure.
Can you explain me that?
Sure, so our environmental division is inspector. Okay. Issue tickets to people who have contaminated recycling or leave trash on the street or mattresses or what have you. Those tickets are processed through the municipal court, and our court liaison handles all the processing. She attends court, she works with counsel and the resident in terms of reaching an agreement, if you will, when it can be reached. When people want to contest their ticket, and of course, they can go in front of the judge if they can't work out the ticket. She keeps track of all of it. She tracks all the expenditures, and then what doesn't get paid, when people either don't pay the ticket or don't show up to court, gets processed through her office to the Rossi law firm, who we contract with to try to recoup and collect the fees that have not been paid.
Yes, go ahead. Counselor.
Thank you. Is any way that she can be like, what we were talking before, to be an educator to the property owners, why you gotta take it, at the same time she can explain this is the reason why. And we can give you this educational paperwork the next time you won't get it.
Sure, I mean, there's an opportunity there as part of that conversation to explain why the citation was received.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions?
I think fairly. Councilman asked most of it. Again, along the line was that, is there enough work there to? And explaining about what does the environmental liaison, court liaison. Did, and was there enough work to be done there? And what else can that person do? And I think that you just answered that. It just stuck out. I think it's been there for a couple of years now, but more so. And so my question to you is that has the citations increased or decreased? And seeing that we're upon technology and using data, are we collecting data to know where these are we receiving more or less? Where is this taking place? Are you able to generate reports to share with us?
She does, I mean, it is a data-driven system. It's not, thank God, it's not all on paper. The ability of the system she uses to generate the kind of reports that you described is something that frankly, I don't know.
Please.
She does an excellent job. And one of the challenges, as you know, with those environmental fines is that if you don't pay them, nothing happens. Because they go to the owner of the property and very often can be an absentee landlord. And there's no teeth to those fines, which is something that we're pursuing in other ways to try to make them meaningful. There's no impact to your tax bill or to your credit or anything really. If you don't pay that fine, nothing.
Yeah, you just mentioned that those who don't pay go to Rossi Law.
Yes.
Is that RFP too, or just
That's a vendor who does the collections.
for the city of Providence?
Yes.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Dorcas, I think you've already asked the questions on this. We really have to move on. I mean, you already asked a question on this. I'm gonna go to.
Quick question, thank you, Chairwoman. Custodian, can you just explain why this department has a custodian that doesn't go through public property?
Because when I arrived at DPW, we didn't even have a custodian. I had people at the highest levels of the department who told me that they were the ones paying titles and emptying the trash, which I thought was pretty unacceptable. So I lobbied my boss to have a custodian assigned to DPW. Originally it came out of property, but then it was transferred over, so it belongs to DPW.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
And if I just let me add, I think part of the reason for that is because the Department of Public Works is physically overseeing the work of that staff. And so from an internal control process, it's best practices to have the department who's physically seeing the human come into work every day, signing off on their payroll. And the easiest way to have that function is to move the salary in.
Makes sense, thank you.
Okay. Councilor Vargas has to be.
Yes, a comment, why this environmental is not under environment?
I think, and again, it predates me, but it's viewed as a more administrative position rather than strictly environmental.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Sorry to be silly. Cool. Anyway. Any other questions on this particular division? Okay, on we go.
Right, we are now in the sewer division.
Yay, sewer.
We're getting there. Few more to go. I am in page 251 in the budget book and slide 31 in the PowerPoint presentation. This department also gets a little bit of credit for revenue they may not necessarily generate. There are fees associated, with the engineering department effectives for sewer construction and green maintenance that are, charged and are reported in this department's budget. Those revenues are budgeted at $34,000 this year. On to slide 32, total proposed expenditures in fiscal year 2026 are $1,617,892. This represents a $65,645 increase over the fiscal 2025 budget of 4.21%. When we look at salaries in this budget, fiscal 2025 salaries are budgeted at $757,890. Cost of living increases are $19,268. Step increases are $2,167 for total fiscal 2026 salaries of $779,315. On to slide 34. The vast majority of this department are considered discretionary. I did not provide a ton of details of what these line items are, because most of them are fairly explanatory. The first discretionary line item is $22,000 for small tools and shop supplies. There is $50,000 budgeted for construction and maintenance related supplies, $5,000 for gravel and sand, maintenance and services budgeted at $13,000. Special casting, which include castings, manhole covers, and inlet stones, are budgeted at $20,000, and then a decrease, which is a decrease of $20,000 from the fiscal year 2025 budget. There are no services in this budget, but there are capital expenditures. So the first capital expenditure in this budget is miscellaneous project expenses. Those have been budgeted at $22,000, and that is not fountain maintenance, which is subcontracted. There's also $20,000 budgeted for structural improvements, and similar to the highway division, that budget has been reduced because there are CIP dollars covering some of the work that's happening, but we have kept $20,000 in the budget as a placeholder so that we can continue to fund urgent essential things that are not funded under CIP.
I mean, what town is?
Yes,
The Federal Hill Town. Okay.
There's 3 fountains.
Yeah.
Biggest ball fountain, the goat fountain, and the long.
Okay, questions? I'd just like to give a shout out to Dave and his work. Thank you very much for what a wonderful job you do. We've had situations in the both Fred and David really have helped on some flooding issues due to stormwater, and I'm just very grateful. I guess my only question is, I just want to know if we are doing how we're doing on our analysis of our sewer. I don't know if it's Craig or David or both.
Our analysis of sewer
Lines.
it's ongoing. We're actively planning our next investigation, cleaning. We're wrapping up about $6 million of down repairs and cured in place pipe. Restoring pipe without. You know, it's a big huge project for us, the biggest sewer project we've had, and that'll complete our sewer.
Okay, and also just wanted to ask about the truck and the TV and the scopes, and do you have the equipment?
Yes, we have our portable camera that we can put down, it's robotics, so we can do sewer inspection from Quest, from engineering. We also do our own on brush. We also have a push camera that we catch bases, manholes, and everything like that, to investigate samples.
And a brand new battery. Yes, okay, great, because I just want to make sure we're all set there, because we didn't really have accurate equipment. You need to do, and I do appreciate that. Any other questions?
I do.
Oh, yes, I'm sorry, I'll do. Council Pacheco.
Thank you. Again, thanks to the team at Dave for responding. This is more for the director as you're projecting out the next year or two. But this has been a constant issue in Ward 9, which is on Hamilton Street, which is a shared sewer line, which is Providence and Narragansett Bay. And just wanted to ask you if that has been on your radar, or, and as I also shared with Director Dave in terms of has there been any communication or any planning to address the conditions of that sewer line that's also connected to the city of Providence? As I think it was last year, it was like a river and so forth, and a lot of complaints down through those areas. I just wanted to, if you can just
Sure.
elaborate a little bit of that.
Again, for the additional sewer crew that we received last year.
Mhm.
Stormwater management has become a big part of their lives, and they have done a lot of proactive work in flood prone areas, for example, like Pavilion and Eddy, it turns into a lake when it rains.
Yeah.
This is definitely improved because of a lot of the proactive work that sewer division did. What are we doing?
So when I'm on him, in that particular portion, I always have the problems, it goes from Valley to drains and through the, as we know. And I'm communication, every time it rains, every thing that comes in, and every time I send my communication anymore. We're not really allowed to touch their stuff, and then their response is not. So we get flooding issues in Hamilton, the potters, we're out there, we clear those drains, we clean them, we flush them frequently, so we don't have flooding issues. But when you get further on down there, where their drains are, the Adelaide comes in those areas, those drains are tied to their interceptors, and they're responsible to maintain them. We're not allowed to touch them. I do call, I speak with the director there, and I say, hey, we get this stuff clean, they complain over there. So their response to me, and then I require you to respond. I think it might be a higher up issue, I don't know, I tried, I called, I didn't add them to the point where they don't get. So, you know, if it's something we could handle quickly, we get okay, we try to handle it to solve the issue, but usually there's an infrastructure problem with their line. Same thing with the ladder, with that family, we get calls with sinkholes, you know, I would just go out there and tell them to make a mistake because they don't. But they have the same, property is responsible, and property including the time in the main line. And they don't really address it, like they think it's their problem, and that's a problem for us. But we use our resources to make it safe, or get it to work temporarily. And I personally don't know the solution to enforcing it with that. That's a higher end.
Thank you for that update, Madam Chair. And this is the reason why I bring it to you as a director, as you, obviously, he does a fine job addressing it. How we could come up with a strategy or plan to reach Narragansett Bay as they continue to be an issue within our city, but they also, are within the city and continue to propose another tunnel under our city and increasing also the fees. So this is not acceptable anymore for many years now. Narragansett needs to figure out, and through you as the head, if we could take some steps with the administration and with us and with me or whomever, but we need to figure out a plan for this. Appreciate it. Thank you.
I appreciate that. I also glad, I think, you know, certainly, hard for a new director to do that. You know, certainly, I would think it's almost gonna be the mayor, you know, because we have, we have a lot of issues that we're dealing with and they're not present. With stormwater, so, Councilor Marcus.
Thank you, Manager. Yes, Director, it's something that I've been having problems with Valley Street, that we got flooded and we cannot touch the basin. I know Director members have been there, said like, I am clients, I won't be able to touch this because it's Narragansett. Even myself, I call and I got nowhere with Narragansett. So we look to, another thing that this department is doing very well is like to do an advance to like maintenance. When you hire this other company to go around and clean those basins, that helps a lot in the community because when it rains doesn't flow no much anymore. So that's something I would like to see to keep going, to give it out and send them out to clean, keep cleaning the basins and avoid the flood. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Councilor. Yes,
Say one thing on
Dave, yes.
sewer department does not hire companies to dig for us. they usually tie it to a paving project or a project where if a whole street's being paved, like, Alexander Street got paved. That company's supposed to go behind that and they're supposed to, clean those drains after part of the paving project and pay for it with the project. Also, what's another one? Lear Street, portion of Lear Street, having some paving work done, and that's included in there. So I personally don't hire, we have two landfill diggers, I have a vacuum truck, and one is on order from last budget. Should be coming in the end of the month, with the chassis, and then going to the company for the vacuum pocket, so a smaller vehicle to get it into the neighborhood more. So that don't come out, I don't pay.
Other questions? Thank you. All right. On we go.
We are into the storm response budget. This is on page 254 in the budget book. Okay, we are on slide 36. The total fiscal year 2026 proposed budget is $2,178,500, and this is level funded, so there's no change in this budget from fiscal 2025 to 26. If we move to slide 37, you can see the breakdown between fixed and discretionary costs, and again, there is no change in any of these line items. The private contractors allocation of $150,000 is for private snow vendors. Miscellaneous expenses covers food for weather-related events, GPS service for the vehicles, as well as winter apparel as necessary. There's $50,000 budgeted for construction and maintenance supplies, which may become necessary throughout the process of, handling storms. Materials, snow and ice removal includes salt, sand, and magnesium chloride, and that's budgeted at $723,500. Rentals not classified are truck rental for snow removal or any other rental equipment required to respond to a storm. That's $530,000. And repairs for equipment is budgeted at $150,000. And again, that's so we can have funding to repair any equipment as necessary to respond to any storm, not just a snow related event.
Yes. Councilor Vanderbilt.
Thank you. You guys do a great job, with storms. The question I have, who are the salaries? Because there's no one, there isn't like a.
Yep, so there are no salaries budgeted in this line item. If you see under salaries, it's all overtime costs. So what happens is
Okay.
when we have a weather related event, there are special pay codes that are used, whether it's a rain event or a snow event, and the department enters or pay codes in, so it charges the snow budget for, or, so it charges the snow budget for any storms.
So it's like,
It's just the overtime portion of the salaries.
Of the
There's no
salary,
full-time employees dedicated to this budget.
excellent, okay. Thank you.
And a follow-up on that, so we're only budgeting for the snow removal over time moving forward, not rain, flooding.
Yep, so
Overtime.
So the $500,000 encompasses all overtime related to weather events. Because this rain flooding is such a new, it's a newer way of categorizing this expenditure. We haven't broken out the budget at this time because it's a little bit hard to forecast the allocation between rain and snow. And they do all roll up to the same appropriation line in the ordinance. But that $500,000 is included to cover any sort of weather related event and not the snow.
And the rentals not classified or not classified, those are for truck rentals?
Yep, so that's trucks or any sort of equipment required for the snow season that we do not currently own, or it's more cost effective to rent for a short period of time versus buy for 100% of the time.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Taylor.
I know the internal auditor is not here, so I can't point to her, but I know that she did some research in the last 2 or 3 months ago, maybe, I'm guessing when it was, about overtime for certain people who are not supposed to get it. I guess I want to know from this point on, are they not gonna get it? How does this work?
Just if I may, when there's a lot of snow, because it's a little,
Wait,
it impacts over time. Yeah, I was gonna say easier, that's not the word I want. The snow operation is multifaceted, I think a lot of people don't really know, haven't know, why would they think about exactly what it is we do? When snow is predicted, in addition to participating like the mayor's EAB calls and so forth and planning, we have to plan when people are coming in, who's coming in at what time, when are the vendors coming in, when are our own people coming in and so forth. And so it's a coordinated effort among the administration and highway, and then various personnel. And one piece of that is the snow inspectors. Now, they're used to, Anthony Cipriano, from environmental, he handles all of the vendors, which is kind of like herding cats in some sense, respectfully. So he and another staff member handle the recruitment of the vendors. We've changed the way we recruit vendors and really enhanced the way we verify vendors in terms of their qualification and how much their trucks really weigh and that they're really registered and their drivers are really licensed and that kind of thing. And thanks to PPD for helping us really tighten up that process. So he concentrates on vendors, checking them in, assigning them to the wards they're going to be assigned to and so forth. The inspectors are city personnel who are assigned to the vendors and assigned to particular, we don't use wards, we use sectors, but for the sake of this conversation, we'll say wards. They're each assigned particular wards, and it's their job to make sure that the vendors are in the ward and that they're plowing and that, you know, to troubleshoot any issues that might happen. And at one time, he was also handling the inspectors, which was no discredit to him, he does an awesome job, but it was way too much for one person to try to run. And so in the past, this past snow season that we had and the one right before it, we had another person dedicated to just the inspectors. We did a whole new recruitment. We did a training, which we never did. There's a lot more concentration on their expectations. We meet with them before the storm, make sure everybody has what they need. We've worked with other departments to get them the vehicles they need. So I don't have an inspector sliding around the east side in a non-four-wheel drive vehicle trying to see if the guy plowed. We have worked with recreation and other departments that have four-wheel drive vehicles. So that person, that's a significant function. And he has, I believe, helped change our storm response in terms of snow for the better. And he's there for the duration of the storm. And so, yes, he's been paid. We're gonna have to figure out a different way.
I think we're talking two different things, because I thought that when I read it, that there was only one in your division, there was some in Parks. There was some, according to the charter, that the deputy director of public works cannot get overtime. And there was a 4-year listing where they made like $8,000.
Okay, so the
One
ordinance,
before you got in.
so the ordinance that allows for overtime for things like snowstorms lists a number of personnel in DPW, not just one. The deputy director title itself postdates that ordinance. There's a title in the ordinance that is the equivalent of what the deputy director is. So the deputy director has been someone that has worked snow and has received overtime as a non-union employee per that ordinance. The person running the inspectors we need to figure out a different way to get that person paid because they're integral to the snow operation. The inspectors are all city employees and with rare exception, they're all union. So they get overtime because they're union employees.
But I guess my question is, I thought she singled out just in that list, I don't have it with me, the deputy director. Is the deputy director from this point on gonna get overtime in a snowstorm?
If she works snow, yes, because her title is the equivalent of the title, the old title that's in the ordinance.
Then
that
why don't we
allows-
change the title? Why do we keep the same?
The ordinance would have to be changed. I wouldn't change her title. I would respectfully suggest the ordinance should be.
Just because I know the same thing
reflect the new
happened
title.
in Parks Department, Joe Winowski's list, his title got changed, but he's not supposed to be getting overtime.
But he probably
Because
does.
he did,
Yeah.
but
Because he
under the
works
old
snow.
title, right?
Right, so there's a
Just I'd like to
disconnect.
see that cleared up, so it doesn't. If you look at it, it looks like we're short on all this money, but we're spending all this overtime for people that shouldn't get it. According to what she came out.
No,
with.
I understand.
Not a fault to her, that's her job, to
Sure.
find out exactly what to do, but.
But it's also important to know that these are people that actually work snow. They're there, and I'm there too, and I don't get paid at all. And I'm not complaining, but you know, we're 24, 25, 30 hours sometimes in a row. And so they're there, they're working. So yeah, they're.
Counselor Peterson, thank you.
Ordinance.
With regards to storm response, all of the work is done by private contractors?
No. So there's a contingent of snow plow drivers that are DPW, and then it's augmented by snow vendors.
Okay, and so the miscellaneous expenses of food, GPS service, winter apparel, they cover their own, or do we supply for the private contractors as well?
No, when we order food for a snow event, it's only in a very long snow event. in this last season, I think we had 4, what I'm gonna call all hands on deck kind of snow events. And we only ordered food for 2 of those events. Only city employees, are fed.
Any other questions? Yes, Councilor Pichardo and then Councilor Vargas.
Were there any savings derived from the salt, using less salt? And did you have, because of the weather? Is that a pattern that
This past winter, I doubt we realized savings in that regard because this winter was more ice than snow. This winter was more freezing and things getting icy and requiring food with salt than it was snow. Look at that. We used a lot of salt this year.
Correct.
Because it's the kind of winter that we had was really not.
More ice than snow.
More ice than snow. We are exploring and have been talking with some of our counterparts in other municipalities about the use of brine to augment salt. Has a lot of benefits. It literally cuts down on overtime because you can use it earlier prior to a storm. And it also helps with, stormwater management because it doesn't clog up the catch basins the way sometimes salt does. And so it's something that we're looking into, especially as we move toward a new complex, that's something we can integrate into our operations.
as a follow-up?
Yes.
Do you also use the piggyback with the state to purchase the salt or any other green? that
To
butter?
purchase salt, I don't think we figure that.
I don't know how,
Yeah.
this,
Was
I
there-
do know it was publicly procured, so it would have either been a piggyback or an R.
So
It was, yeah, it was a
piggyback-
piggyback.
so derive some savings from that because you're using the piggyback
Mm-hmm.
RFPs with the state or whomever it was.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think typically when we are able to piggyback off the state, it is a savings. I think they're taking advantage of the larger pool purchasing that they're utilizing. But I think that's a consistent practice. I don't know if that was like a new savings. This year.
All right, thank you.
Not for Vargas.
Thank you. Do we know how many trucks do we have? Rent, or we still have those in the garage, that we're still paying for rent for them?
No, how many rentals did we have?
How many
Do we
rentals?
still have them or returning?
We don't have them now. We had 10, actually 9 6-wheelers and 5 landscapers.
Before,
Something I
Oh,
read.
it's not, it's not.
14.
14.
Can I follow up?
Yes.
Thank you. Out of those 14, we don't have any of those trucks right now,
Yeah,
right?
we
Correct.
returned the rentals. Mhm.
Can I?
Yes.
Thank you. Do we rent this truck per year or we just rent it for the season or winter? How many trucks do we have in-house that we, or that DPW or highway department use
For snow,
for
how
snow?
many plows do we have?
Well,
Yeah.
there's 23 landscapers, pickup trucks, 41,
And big plows, like everything,
yes,
41,
around 41.
and we are getting some new plows from the master lease.
And how many are needed for a snowfall where you need to plow?
It depends, sorry, you knew I was gonna say that. And all hands on deck, we use them all. We just put out everything we have, and especially a long duration storm or something that comes down fast, that puts a lot of wear and tear on those vehicles, and they break down during the storm. So we don't usually end a storm with the same number of trucks that we started with. Unfortunately.
Okay, yes.
One last comment.
Yeah.
So this division falls into highway division, right? This one,
No, storm.
A storm.
Storm is.
because we're talking about it with highway division director just now.
Sure, yes, highway is at the fore of any snow response, but, there are staff from, pretty much every other division that play a role in storm response. Whether it be as an inspector, as Anthony looked for environmental, my admin, me, the deputy director, it's not strictly from, and certainly sewer, they all work, they plow, Dave plows and inspects. It's all hands.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Can we go on to the last?
Yeah.
On page 256 in the budget book, 539 in the PowerPoint presentation. Revenue for this is the revenue generating department. It is derived from fees for street closures as well as meter impact fees. But if you are taking up a meter space, we cannot use it. There's a fee assessed for that. The use of that space. It's budgeted at $595,000 this fiscal year. Which is an increase over fiscal year 2025 budget of $295, and the reason for that increase is the fines and fees study. Okay. Slide 40. Total proposed expenditures are $1,783,137. This represents a $128,522 increase over the fiscal year 2025 budget, or 7.77%. Total salaries in this budget are $717,995. There's cost of living increases of $27,731, steps of $4,685. There was an MLA executed in fiscal year 2025 for the traffic signal maintenance foreman. That had an annual cost of $29,713 to bring total salaries to $780,124. Slide 32. This budget has been broken into fixed and discretionary costs. The first discretionary cost is miscellaneous professional services, that's $10,000. There are miscellaneous expenses budgeted at $3,000. Small tool shop supplies are $10,000. Traffic signs have a small increase and are budgeted at $70,000. Repairs to equipment, which includes signal repairs and maintenance, are budgeted at $56,100. And maintenance and service, which is line striping throughout the city, is budgeted at $180,000. And now that's the traffic engineering division.
Okay. Yes, Councilor.
Thank you, Chairwoman. I have a few questions about this, particularly the extra handout that you gave us.
Oh, yeah.
I guess I'm wondering, year to year, there's a lot of rollover in the available fund balance, and given like given the great need we have for traffic calming and traffic safety, why do we not spend that down every year? Why is there so much over it, like so much roll? And I guess that's my other question, does it roll over? Does it just go back to the general fund if we don't spend it at the end of the year?
So it rolls over. So if you see that available fund balance, that is the net of the revenue and expenditures plus what's been added year over year. So if you see that when this fund was established in 2019, it started at $500.
Stop you for a minute. I want to make sure everyone's looking at the right hand.
Yeah.
Because I can see some pages, but
It's a single page, yeah.
It is this handout.
yeah, it's very important. Okay. I'm sorry.
Start over again?
So, the bottom line that Councilman Andor has pointed out is the available fund balance at June 30th of this fiscal year or fiscal 2025 year to date. So to your point, Councilwoman, this funding does not roll into the general fund. It stays in this fund and is in reserves, or what a private company would call retained earnings, until it is depleted. So as you can see, and I think as I had mentioned, when we were reviewing the non-departmental budget.
Yeah.
The reason why, the decision was made to not continue to add more funding was, again, like this I think demonstrates the fact that there has not been a trend of spending this money efficiently. And if you see that when we started, the real spend really started happening in 2023.
Yeah.
And that's when the ordinance was amended to allow for the purchase of marked patrol vehicles, because we had a funding gap for those line items, and we did have these reserves, and it was felt that those would be supportive of school safety. However, that practice has been stopped, and I know that Nate and his team are working very hard to come up with a plan to spend these funds. But again, there is a significant amount in reserve. There's, over $400,000 in cash available.
Yeah.
At this point in time. And if you can see the trend, we do anticipate that would grow by, approximately $400,000 if we stick on track with what happened in fiscal 2024.
Yeah, I guess I just want to say, this is something I'm really concerned about, because we have a significant traffic safety problem across the city. We signed with the mayor last year, a commitment to Vision Zero, and I just don't really see us fulfilling that commitment. I know I've seen 4 people die in my neighborhood in the last 2 years, but since, before we signed that together, and to have, I know in the first budget that we worked together on for fiscal year 2024, we increased the percentage of the camera revenue that was going here, and we didn't do it this year because there is such an overage, that there's such a need in the city for this type of work. And it affects, it's not just my pet project, it affects our quality of life, it affects the ability for people to get around, affects drivers as well as people on foot, which are often the same people. Sometimes we're drivers, sometimes we're walkers, sometimes we're bikers, sometimes we're, I don't know, wheelchairs. All the modes of transportation. And so to see this consistently have, so much extra surplus is just to say is concerning, and I'd love to make sure that we're putting together a plan to spend this down every single year, because there's tons of need, and I'm happy to help with that plan, whatever we need to do anyway, just to stay on record, we really shouldn't have a surplus year over year on this.
And I'm gonna follow up on that, because, every year I ask, I have to thank Nate. He's
Yeah, no,
very
thank you, Nate. That's not
responsive.
a, dig
Yeah,
on Nate.
very responsive, but what I've always asked is he's not supportive, staff wise. I mean, just, I think there's gotta be someone else up top with him. That's the managing engineer, or, someone that works with him, that is giving everyone the instructions and the planning, and I've been talking about this for years, so I just, I'm also, this is a real problem, I think. So I'm wondering if you have anything to say.
I agree. I think that there's similar to parking, there's a large gap between the head of the division and the worker bees.
Yeah.
Where they really both could benefit from some more support.
But I don't see any new position here, or I know we're trying to cut, but I'm just asking, how are we gonna do this?
As I said,
One
it's
person.
a difficult budget.
I get it.
And so, but I hear you.
We need a plan for how to spend this money. This is I think every counselor here probably
Need to-
has some issues that haven't been handled. And so it's just not, it can't be.
And then it does feed into the other budgets. I know when we don't spend this down, we have traffic issues, it goes into the police, and then they have to do more enforcement, and then we need more police officers, which isn't the actual solution, because they're just enforcing things based on how the roads are designed. It's 100% Nate, it's not a ding on you because you're amazing, you're doing all the work. So there's not enough, we're not spending it. And so it's just, and I do think it just has these rollout impacts on other departments.
This is the one plan I am gonna ask for. I think I haven't asked for any plans, but we really do. Something about how this money is gonna be spent. I appreciate that.
Make sure.
How much money?
Last year was.
No, we could always use that money for the, other people that aren't getting the raise.
No, we need it for traffic safety, Jim, knock it off.
I'm just throwing it out there.
We can use it for Alex and Ari or whatever.
Thank you. The question, so how much money we have left? 461,000?
So the 461,000 is the estimated balance as of June 30th, 2025. There are some open POs, so I do know there is a plan to spend some of this money. I don't have the total of those POs, but I do think that they're in the $200-ish thousand range, so there is a plan to spend this money. There are encumbrances against this money. But the balance at June 30th will be determined once we get to June 30th.
Can I follow?
Yes.
How we can secure this money to use in the community between the city council? How we can secure it, not to give it back to the police department, because they will come.
Yeah, I don't want to spend any more of this on market patrol.
Okay, no comments.
Sorry.
That is a fair question.
Yes, certainly. So the rules around how this funding can be set is set specifically in the appropriation ordinance. So if there was a desire to change the criteria of what this could be sent on, that is where that change would happen.
Okay.
Marked patrol vehicles are named in there. With that said, I do know we've made a massive investment in marked patrol vehicles with the master lease and with this fund, and I don't anticipate any additional drive to do that. But if the question is how can you preserve this money? It is very well preserved. There is 11 line items you can spend it on that are somewhat specific. So I would encourage you to, read through those, and if you would like to see those amended, that is certainly an option.
May we know what the 200K encumbrances are on that, 461-307?
They're all related to traffic, striping, really.
Okay. All right. All right. Councilor Davis.
I had the solution for that, they probably got 3 more people for Nate,
What are we looking at?
parking enforcement, parking
I
administration
appreciate
control.
that, Councilor Vargas. Okay,
Thank you.
anything else? Okay.
That's it, man.
All right. Yes, Councilor Graves, okay, Councilor Peterson.
I would just, thank you, it's very quick, I just wanna see, to add to the suggestion of what the breakdown is for the 200,000, what I would like to also see is, since there's still a silver on it, perhaps what potential projects could be put in so that we can incorporate, if it's all striping, you know, is very helpful. I know that there's a striping request from my fire department in my neighborhood that would be very helpful in a particular area to, support some traffic safety issues, so, if you could also reach out to us, just to kind of see if there are any specific needs in certain areas for our wards. I'm very happy to try and find some ways to support my board, because we desperately need it as well.
Yes, Councilor.
A super quick question for the signage. Do we also budget to remove signs that are no longer relevant? Like a silly small example, but like on Angel Street, as you're coming off the Henderson Bridge, there's a sign that says bumps, but the bumps have been removed like a year ago. So it's like stuff like that, just like, oh yeah, there's 2 of them. And I take Henderson a lot of days to go to the gym, but so I see them every day. I'm like, oh yeah. But there's a bunch of those. I don't know if that's like,
In terms of funding a study to find.
or just to remove them, yeah.
But,
No
the
study.
removal of those signs is done by.
We just like put them in 311 or something if we find them. Okay.
Yes, I think Nate has some interesting.
Oh, yeah, he's-
311, or 311.
311.
Thank you.
Sorry for the
Yes,
two examples.
Councilor Pichardo and Councilor Vargas.
Yeah, just along those lines with the speed bump striping, much needed in throughout Providence. But I do have a specific question to Nate, and I guess and it is that in 2003, there was a resolution passed on the study on Broad Street. The Middle Islands of in the bike path. Where is that study? And is that when can we expect that?
I think we've been, I think we've been discussing it, and sort of we've decided to replace it, and it's a matter of, we've decided to make it a little more safer for people, standing on those bus islands with some hazards, you into the islands. We really have to study to what the alternative is, in terms of taking that out, I think, we've had some discussion with as far as, can those items be taken out and actually, have people board at the curb or where the old sidewalk was, and it would be doable without actually taking out the urban trail. So I think, I think it's kind of a greater decision to take out something that the city made a very large investment in terms of doing that. So I think that's where it stands right now.
I understand your position.
Yeah.
And I think you stated that to me, but we passed a resolution for a study. At least that we can receive some of that information, we haven't received it.
Yeah.
Majority Leader Espinal and I have been waiting for that. And while this discussion have been had, we haven't heard anything. And then, yes, I see in essence the Middle Island on Broad Street and so forth, people have some concerns, have been painted by groups or even the signs, but it's continuously to be a hazard for drivers. Every weekend, someone just drives through it. And so I would love to see, and we would want to see the study that we passed the resolution as soon as possible. That's all I would like to see that in a comprehensive way.
Yeah.
I know that people feel passionate about bike paths, feel passionate about the fact that we spend money. Mayor has been on the record that he wants to see that modified in some ways, the same way he did it in the South Angel. And to this day, we haven't received anything. So through the director, we got to figure this out. Thank you.
Okay, Counselor Vargas and then Counselor Taylor.
Thank you. Question, sorry, Pauline, I'm sorry. Can we use these funds on the graffiti stop signs?
Which ones are you referring to?
The $461,000.
Stop for what?
Graffiti stop signs.
I think new signage is one of the.
Yeah, you'd have to get a new sign, not the graffiti, yeah.
Yes, so the funds can be used for activities to help mitigate and reduce speeding throughout the city with a focus on school safety initiatives. The items that are numbered 1 through 11 are, first, conduct traffic studies to analyze area where speeding is an issue. Number 2, install speed bumps, raised crosswalks. Number 3, install speed limit and other traffic calming signage. Number 4, stripe streets in order to reduce speeding. Number 5, improve traffic signal functionality as well as new signals where appropriate. Number 6, make neighborhoods and areas near schools more pedestrian friendly and safe. Number 7, employ the use of speed sleds and other devices to slow traffic. Number 8, where possible, coordinate with the police department to establish radar posts. Number 9, improve visibility of crosswalks with new striping and portable crosswalk signs. Number 10, engage in public outreach campaigns to reduce speeding. And number 11, purchase of marked patrol vehicles.
Thank you for running that.
Yeah, I'm getting stop signs tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
I just have a quick question, because my constituent Bob and his crew are watching on Crescent Street.
Well,
There you go.
And the reason I'm mentioning this, because I know when you directly, you know about it, and they had speed bumps down. I've been there 7 years, so 6 years ago, they had speed bumps. A couple of years ago, it was too late, they didn't, they're so busy trying to take all those rubber speed bumps, they were rubber speed bumps, trying to take them out. They couldn't before the first snowfall, so they got plowed up. They got busted up and the bolts were all plowed up. Since then, they're not there. Last month, a car went around the corner, the signs are still there, speed bumps. Car went around the corner, went through a fence, went through the tree, and almost hit the octagon up. So they want the speed bumps, they call me, but I'm gonna put Nate on the spot for that, only because they're watching. He said there has to be another whole survey again. I don't understand why, when the signs are there and the thing was already, they were there for 5 out of 7 years.
So the temporary ones were there for.
Temporary, yes. And I've got money this time, but I don't have it until, I want to put at least the rubber ones down. And when I get my CDBG money, I'm gonna pay for the permanent one.
Streets.
Right,
issue.
but they were there, the signs are still there, say speed bump, and if you could explain to Bob and the group, because I know they're watching.
So, regardless
Better
of,
get closer to the mic too, by the way,
That's
since you got the
fine.
mask.
That's fine.
regardless of whether rubber speed bumps were there in the past, we do have an ordinance that indicates, criteria of when and when not, infrastructure traffic calming, like speed bumps can be installed, so, we did do a count there a week ago, I just haven't been able to digest that and make a determination whether it's approved yet.
Well, they don't understand that if it was there for 5 years, nothing changed on that street, maybe a few people moved out, moved in.
Right.
But the street's still the same, so why the red tape to try to get the rubber ones back in order for me to get those?
Because it, historically in the past, it may not have been met the criteria that's the current criteria of.
Well, it had to meet the criteria, you wouldn't have put it
yeah,
on.
it's new criteria.
Historically, a lot of things that were speed bumps were put in that didn't necessarily meet a dated for the criteria, so.
A lot of times they're put in for the accident
Yes.
without really any regard
Well,
to
Right.
They're asking again.
criteria.
It's okay, we can ask.
So we're gonna look at the criteria and evaluate it, as if it were a new request, I guess.
Okay.
To make sure that it's.
The signs are there, don't need the signs, just need the rubber one, and then if I'll get the money and then I'll buy the permanent one, so we don't have to go through this problem.
Yeah, it's not, we talked about that in that case, ordinance, there is a clause there that says certain types of funding, CDBG, NIF funds, the ordinances need to be adhered to, so once we have money, the criteria is relevant, but right now that it's not until the law, right?
Right, but I'm just asking, have the rubber ones put, just until we get the.
I guess the rubber ones require approval. The rubber ones we put temporary ones at first and a permanent one, so you need.
I mean, they wanna go buy them themselves, I said, you can't do that, like, seriously, they see them online, they're like, we'll go buy them, I know the word, I said, don't do that.
You know, it's because we had the same discussion last night in Ward 4, and you know, if there's a lot of requests, and there is an ordinance, a city ordinance, that kind of.
I just don't wanna see someone come around the corner,
No.
end up in the house,
Yeah.
someone gets killed, and then I'm like, blame me, I gotta blame you, like, you know what I mean? It's like, just,
I'm trying to get to that as soon as I can.
Alright. so hopefully you see all that, Bob. Okay.
What ordinance is that?
Okay, wait a minute.
We need complete streets.
We need to, first of all, Miguel Counselor Sanchez has a question.
Miguel works.
Birthday boy.
Birthday boy, man, thank you, 27.
27?
Young man, 27 years young.
Legal.
Thank you guys for spending, my birthday with me, I really appreciate it.
Best birthday ever.
I do feel very special. I appreciate it all. No, just two general questions. Thank you guys for your time, obviously. The first question is, since we're talking about accidents and stuff, when, claims are submitted to our legal department, what's the mechanism in DPW to go like check out what happened? If it is like DPW related.
So we get lots of claims on a regular basis, and they go to my admin. And she parses them out to the individual division heads depending on the nature of the claim. So, you know, I tripped and fell on a sidewalk, that's gonna go to Craig. Pothole goes to Sal, so forth. They will investigate the condition today and then look at to see if there's any record of that being the condition previously and whether we fixed it. Fine. Also, this is a state road, that's not us, or, you know, for any information we can find out about the area where the claim is and the nature of the claim and whether we knew about it or had anything to do with it. And then we report that back to the claims administrator's office.
Thank you. If I could just follow up on that, so say it is like a sidewalk, that's lifted with a tree or something. Is it like prioritizing the department to like fix it, so another claim doesn't happen right away, or I know it probably varies from incident to
It
incident.
varies, but yeah, I mean,
Is that like the
definitely.
idea
We don't want
to,
anyone to get hurt, and so certainly, a lot of times, frankly, by the time the claim is made and kind of winds its way through the process, and we've already fixed it. But if we haven't, certainly those get there.
and my last question, how's the new 311 system working for you guys?
So the new 311 was inaugurated kind of at the same time as we started learning how to use Asset Essentials, and the two really go hand in hand. And so it's been a heavy lift for some of the staff, you know, to learn kind of two new systems. But I'd have to say that overall, it's going well. They're learning. We've had an amazing amount of support from MCCS in terms of training and just, you know, I know you told me how to do this, but I forget, you know, and really impressing upon staff the importance of especially those comments back. So that the constituent who makes that 311 doesn't sit there wondering if anyone's even seen it or read it. They at least get a received, working on it, you know, comment so that they know. So we've really emphasized with staff the need for that kind of communication back to the constituent. I think generally it's working well.
Thank you, that's it.
I think that, I'm sorry, Counselor for Charter, you were asking Nate what ordinance it is that says that requires traffic studies.
Yes.
Nate,
Yeah, it's the Green Streets Ordinance, there's a section in there about traffic calming. I mean, there's an overall policy that we revamped back in 2023, and it refers to that ordinance, so. But the ordinance probably predated that policy.
Thank you.
and where is that policy again?
Where is it?
Yeah.
Well, I'm just saying, there's an overall traffic calming policy that
Okay.
talks about how we address traffic calming requests.
Okay.
And it does refer to that ordinance as far as how we determine approval, and then approval, we put temporary measures in. We collect data, we have a public meeting, and then we go to final design.
Thank you. Counselor Dorcas.
One last question, Director. How you doing with, funds for the new garage? I don't see anything in this budget for the new garage.
Oh, well, it's already, that's already funded, right? The new DPW complex, that's. that was in the DPW.
DPW garage.
I believe is being shored up and that is part of the phase two plan.
You mean the new garage?
The new garage.
He means the new bed.
The new
So
bed.
that was fine.
Yes, yes,
It
it's all part of the capital improvement plan.
made out of the capital improvement plan.
Had a meeting with the project management team and we are cautiously hoping to break ground in July, if not sooner.
Can I just follow up? Can we make space for the bean check department to bring back the bean check because
You ain't do it anymore.
Yeah, we don't, there's no bid pack.
it's more revenue, we can bring it back.
No. And respectfully, if this body decided or whoever decided to do that, there's no space. We've had to cut space in the plan, and so. There's no making space for anything else because we've lost space.
And I'll also say the salaries for the VIN station it costs more than the revenue we're bringing in, which is part of the reason why it's closed.
Yeah.
So while it may seem like it brings in revenue, the cost of running the operation was more than the revenue generated.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. All right, any other questions for DPW? Thank you. Thank you very much, Director and the team and our finance team. Thank you. So at this point, since we are now at 8:47, we are certainly not going to handle the rest of our agenda.
Okay, like, ready to move down, it's like, oh no.
For items number, 1 through 12.
Yeah.
They have a motion. By Councilor Taylor, all in favor? Aye. All opposed? Okay, and then.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Okay, motion made by Councilor Taylor, seconded by Councilor Taylor, all in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
It's not here, bro.